right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is yet another E3 2016 podcast over here at 4playernetwork.com. My name is Nick Henderson, and I am joined today. Which way do I go? I'm going to go with Christopher Guthridge.
Hey, what's up?
Bob Webb.
Hello.
Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
And Christopher Davis.
Good evening, everyone.
Today was day one of the E3 2016 show floor. So we were there, wandering around, playing games. Today was a shorter day. Because of the Nintendo conference and everything that they do start in the morning, they open at noon. So we only had about a 6-hour window today to play games. But before we ever got to the show floor... Well, Bob, do you want to talk about Zelda? Do you like Zelda? Are you a Zelda fan?
I'm fine with Zelda.
All right, let's talk about Zelda, because that started actually before the show floor even opened. They announced today the official title of Legend of Zelda for the Wii U/NX, or whatever the fuck that thing is called.
Legend of Zelda: Winds of Winter.
No.
Close.
Legend of Zelda Sands of Time?
No, keep going.
Legend of Zelda: The Winter Soldier.
No, Legend of Zelda Civil War.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
That sounds right.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Let's talk about that.
Into the Wild?
Not in...
What-
You're killing me. You're
That was
killing me.
That was a book.
Yeah, that was a book. This is not even remotely related.
Legend of
Zelda?
Zelda.
Legend of Zelda
On the
Breath
road.
of the Wild. Seriously, what do y'all think of the subtitle?
Could be better.
It confuses me, but
Bob says it could be better.
it's not horrible. It could have been the Legend of Zelda Poop Sack.
It seems pretty.
Could have been.
It seems like a pretty unconventional title for a Zelda game. Period. Because I don't know. It doesn't seem to fall in line with the same naming scheme as like Twilight Princess. Like I don't know.
Yeah, the naming scheme of previous Zelda games have been around key characters or items that are crucial to the experience.
And this is more describing like the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
it could the
Maybe.
wild could be something.
Maybe this the
It's very
the,
breathy.
the wild energy has breathed life into him.
Maybe.
Breathe breath.
Well,
He gets the breath.
So the beginning of the Nintendo live stream today did show the start of the game, which involves Link waking up Doom Soldier style, like
and being very pissed.
in a resurrection chamber.
The Shrine of Resurrection.
Sorry, the Shrine of Resurrection. I apologize. Yeah, so he literally was summoned by Zelda as if summoned from the pits of hell, like Doom. And he arose, and then he left this chamber, and all of a sudden he was in a big open world. So yeah, you're right. Maybe Breath of the Wild refers to something other than the wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
At any point in these demos that y'all watched, did Link die? Did the character die?
No,
Got
he's
close.
he's invincible, confirmed. Never gonna die.
Okay. So I thought it'd be an
What?
interesting
I was
mechanic.
Joking.
Don't need healing items. Fuck all those healing items that you picked up. You don't need to bake apples. 'Cause
Okay.
He's invincible.
Wait, did they bake apples?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
You
missed
can cook.
that.
You can cook.
Dude, how good are baked apples, guys?
They're really good.
They're really good.
I've never had a baked apple.
Oh, shut
Consider
up.
yourself lucky.
What?
Why would you say that?
Have you had apple pie?
Yes, so I have had baked apples.
Yeah, it's
Apples
very
and
I
similar.
mean, I guess you're right. That's
It's very similar. It's very similar.
all right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's edging on the old argument of the fact that Nick doesn't like pie. So
I didn't. I never said I actively don't like pie. I've just said I have never been like, I could really eat a pie right now.
I don't think many people say that.
no.
Well,
Maybe like a slice of pie.
some people get really excited when they think about eating pie. I, on the other hand, get kind of mild. I go mild, like the crowd.
Okay.
Nick goes mild when
Nah.
people talk about pie.
So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I like pie.
Nick's not into
I
pie.
just
He's
fed
not.
that one
He's not
Bob.
into pie.
I
He's
just-
more of a sausage guy.
Y'all really rather talk about pie than Zelda, huh?
Well, I mean, pie's good. We don't know what
Yeah.
the Zelda is.
What if there's pie in Zelda?
Well, there was a lot of stuff that
There
they
is
sh-
actually.
that they showed. In fact, we didn't even see it all because a lot of it was being shown while we were on the show floor.
Yeah. It's a cool booth they have.
It is. It's a huge booth, and just as kind of we assumed, because leading up to the show, they were talking about how Zelda's pretty much the only thing they're bringing, and they weren't lying. This is a giant space with tons of kiosks.
For Zelda.
For Zelda. Playing nothing but Zelda. So, I think there's 2 different demos, which we have not played yet, but we will make sure we play before we depart. I think our plan right now is to maybe try and play it all together on Thursday. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, we're just kind of basing any discussion we're having right now off of what we've seen on the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
So what stands out to you guys? Aside from the fact that obviously this is big open world Zelda, which is something that we've wanted for a very, very, very long time.
I'll tell you what really surprises me. This new stamina system.
That's dumb.
That's dumb?
What?
I'm kidding.
It ties into most of your actions, and I mean not in a Dark Souls way, but it gives you the ability to climb anything.
I don't think that
world.
gives you the ability. I think that you have the ability to climb anything, and the stamina is how high you can climb it. I think the biggest thing in this game is that they've taken fucking little things from every game and just pulled it in.
Mm-hmm.
All these new mechanics. Zelda games have always been fairly simple, but this game has all of these mechanics pulled into one, and the stamina is something new. Was he using the stamina was used for gliding and climbing? Is that it? Pretty much.
Did it have any impact on you swinging the sword?
I don't think so.
also,
No,
well,
if you did the
Some
spin
attack,
attack,
yeah.
yes.
Well,
it
the
was
spin
like
attack, but
sprinting.
plenty of Zelda games have had that before. Like that's been based off of your magic meter.
Yeah.
I would also assume it probably works with heavy weapons.
I mean, don't make
Maybe.
assumptions.
I mean,
Well,
that is
yeah.
a fair assumption because it does look like it's going to have a weapon and armor system with stats,
Yes.
which is a big change.
Big
In fact, Zelda is starting to resemble an RPG.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
To an
Like
extent,
full
yeah.
open world
equipment.
RPG, which
Crafting items have durability.
Yeah,
There's
finding resources on the ground, switching out weapons from like a pop-up screen that gives you a selection choice, stuff like that.
and doesn't it compare it to your currently?
When you
equipped-
find a new weapon, yes, it will tell you the stat difference, either red or green, higher or
and they
lower.
were showing 2 different videos of the game, and at 2 different points they actually had like his outfit was changed. Like
Yeah.
as you cycle through the outfits, his visual style or the way he looks actually changes, which is cool.
Yeah.
Also, Bob had noticed the temperature meter, so you have to manage your temperature. That actually reminds me of like Far Cry Primal, which is the most recent example I can think of, because in that game, when you go into an area that was snowy, you had to improve your your furs.
Link to the
keep yourself
Past was
warm.
like that too.
Was it?
I mean, sorry, not Link to the Past. Ocarina of Time was like that with the different tunics you had to get.
But that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was only like if you go in the volcano, you had to have fire tunic.
Wasn't that what you were just saying?
Yeah, but I mean, this is like
I understand. I understand
like,
what
if
you're saying.
The wind is cold.
There's now larger areas in which that affects you.
like when you go into a menu and you're like out in the world and it just happens to be cold. Like his character, like his stat,
Now,
like his
if he
character
goes
stat, he's
outside
like,
without his mittens, he gets all cold and gets a cold and gets sick.
so
Yeah, isn't there
So wears
also
hat and his
in Twilight
mittens at all
Princess, you have to get when you go up to the mountain?
correct.
You have
Yes.
to get-
So I mean,
One
we've seen,
time.
like I said, we've seen this in Zelda games before, but it's always been isolated to very small,
Yeah.
like
Right.
dungeons or area.
Like-
This is entire regions where you have to change your equipment, which could possibly just kind of like they could stop you from going to that region. Like if you don't have any gear that will help you survive the cold, you just can't go there.
And it's also more flexible as far as like the equipment you need to do that. Because in past Zelda games, it was like, oh, you get the blue tunic
Yep.
for water, you get
Yep.
the red tunic for fire, and
Yep.
that's it. Now it's like any like there's a whole bunch of different clothes that have different atmospheric effects.
So this is interesting. This is actually just a new bit of information that was confirmed via Polygon. It looks like they've confirmed that if you wanted to, you could beat the entire game without ever beating the story. In fact, he says you can literally start the game, and if you wanted, go straight to the final boss.
Okay.
Really?
So how do you not beat the story?
weird.
I don't know. I mean, it's just
whatever.
it seems to imply that maybe the combat is more skill based, and that you can basically go and fight any boss you wanted to at any point potentially. But chances of you actually beating that boss are slim unless you were like truly a master of
Yeah.
this
Well,
combat.
it's like almost like a Souls game where if you were precise and perfect in every movement, that yes, even though it would take a long time with the base stats, you could probably
That seems
beat
to
a
imply
really
that
high-level
maybe
enemy.
they're using that as a little bit of inspiration, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, it's possible, and it's kind of like when watching one of the demos, they saw an enemy that was very powerful, and he's like, you probably can't take him on right now, but maybe someone more experienced could.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, kind of going back to what Chris Davis was mentioning earlier, I do think that the stamina aside, one of the biggest improvements, or not improvements, but one of the biggest things added to this game that you don't see in most other games is the fact that Link can climb fucking almost anything.
Yeah.
You're just climbing the side of a mountain.
You
Just
climb
go
the
for
tree
it.
to pick apples.
And it just works.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is,
just
it's based
works.
off your stamina. So yes, if there's a high mountain, you can climb it, provided you have enough stamina to get to the top.
Because I didn't get I was working on stuff when I was starting some of the stream when he was doing a lot of the climbing, so I wasn't paying super close attention. Does the climbing on certain surfaces look silly? Like, to the point where it's like, he doesn't look like he should be able to climb that?
Not necessarily. It seemed.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't climbing anything too crazy, but from what I saw, it looked pretty decent. We only saw him climb a few things, though, like you said, trees to pick apples,
Yeah.
the side of one mountain to get to a new area, and that's really it. But and like a pole to get to the top is like a lookout point, and there was a treasure chest on top. But
Yeah.
for the most part, we didn't see him climb anything too crazy.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
How do y'all feel about the way the game is shaping up as far as the way it looks? Because, up until this point,
It's pretty.
we've had a very, very
It's
brief look.
very pretty.
Yeah,
Very pretty.
it's beautiful. It's one of those things where Zelda games in the past they've never been open world,
Yeah.
but they've usually had big hub areas. Even Ocarina of Time had Hyrule Field,
yeah.
Hyrule Field, which big open area, but there was never really a whole lot to do there.
Yeah.
It was basically just a big open area. But when you were traversing to a new place, it was it just used from go to point A to point B. And the same thing with I did play. I didn't finish Twilight Princess, but I played a lot of it, and it had a similar area where there's just this big field that connects multiple regions and stuff like that. But this seems like this game isn't like big fields connecting regions. It seems like it's a big region with a bunch of stuff inside it,
Yeah.
and some other regions off to the side as well. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It doesn't seem like there's just a big open area just to be there.
Yeah.
It seems like just like I said, he was finding encampments with like what were they called?
Balkans?
Bob
Bob
Hoskins. They were Bob
Bob
Hoskins.
Hoskins.
And so you're just finding random encampments of those. And you could-
Goblins.
yeah, and the cool thing is that once again another element is like stealth and sound. The Link makes sound. The more he's moving, the faster he's moving. But you could sneak up on these guys, and they would just be chilling by a fire, not at the ready to fight like every single Zelda game in the past. The enemies have always been ready to fight. But in this, they're kind of hanging out, and once they see you, they'll go to reach or run for their weapon, and so you can kind of get the jump on them. But once again, it just kind of adds more to this open world. Just little populations here and there, random treasure chests you can find, and stuff like that.
You know what struck me about this? Because there's been a lot of controversy about, oh my god, it's going to be for the Wii U and the NX, and
Yeah.
they're delaying the release and then get it on both. But I'm watching this demo, and it looks beautiful, it looks incredible, but nothing about this demo struck me as this wouldn't be possible on the Wii U.
I agree.
Which makes me wonder, is this game... I mean, I know they're trying to push it back so they can release it on both consoles simultaneously, but is it possible that it really will be pretty much an identical... Like,
I mean,
maybe
I
it
think
won't
the
even
assets
look
might
that
be a
much
little.
better.
I think it'll probably look a little better. We can't make that judgment yet.
Yeah, it's
I mean, there could be a
especially not
blight
knowing anything
town.
about that
There could be a
fucking
blight
system.
town in this game that runs like shit frame rate wise. That maybe performs better on the NX. We don't know yet. But I mean, once again, coming off of Xenoblade Chronicles, like, why are Wii U developers not doing more? Because Xenoblade Chronicles was a massive fucking game with barely any loading unless you fast travel, and it seems like it's definitely possible, and it seems like you could do that with a Zelda game, and it seems like they are.
Oh yeah, this is apparently the number that they are throwing around is 12 times bigger than Twilight Princess, which is pretty crazy because Twilight Princess was already in and of itself a pretty big game. So I don't know.
So other new elements they added like you can scan enemies now with like a scope.
Yeah,
It's like when he climbed. We talking about he was climbing. He climbed a tower and he looked through a scope and saw a bunch of enemies and scanned them, and he could see their health, and then they remained marked after he came out of the
Seems
scan
like you're
thing,
gonna be
like
doing a lot more
highlighting,
thinking before going
like
into a
stealth,
combat
like
situation.
like strategizing and encountering enemies.
It's gonna
and
be
stuff
really
like
hard
that.
to break that habit myself playing of just running in and just without thinking and just swinging my sword, because it seems like they're really trying to emphasize like look before you leap mentality with the combat. So
And so they also added the glider. I mean, we've seen similar things in before. When Wind Waker had the leaf that you use and stuff like that.
Skyward Sword had some stuff like that as
Yeah,
well.
so we've seen it before, but this one's tied to your stamina. to an extent that has a stamina bar. We saw him gliding around. We saw him snowboarding on his shield.
Yeah, and
going
we were,
down a mountain.
and we
That was
were
pretty
like,
fucking
"Fuck
awesome.
yeah, we don't have to buy steep now."
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you gonna buy?
Yeah,
Steep?
apparently the steep kiosks are not doing so hot.
Oh, really?
Oh, is it there?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I
see
saw
it.
I saw it there, and I just
At
had no
Ubisoft?
interest in it. Yeah, at Ubisoft, it's there.
Who's told me they went up to the booth and there was actually like empty kiosks? Was that you, Chris Davis?
Oh, I
I
didn't
mean, I
see
went
it.
through the booth. I didn't.
Somebody
Yeah,
told me they
crazy.
saw they saw the kiosk. I think maybe it was Tim.
Deep,
The
more
Ubisoft
like
booth was like packed. But
sleep.
there were like 2 or 3 kiosks that just no line
Mhm.
for steep. I don't know.
It looks,
I don't know, man.
So good.
There's we already briefly mentioned there's inventory limits though, because you can only pick up so many of a certain item type or whatever. Like he was trying to pick up weapons
Didn't they also confirm that it's not going to give you the item description and shit every time you pick up an item?
Yes,
Only
so
the first time.
correct, and we aren't 100% sure on that. We kind of briefly spoke about maybe it's if you already have one in your inventory, or we don't know if maybe there's been games in the past that do that, but if you like kind of turn off and turn back on your console, it'll pop it up again. But at least they've said to an extent they are going to reduce the number of times they tell you about an item over and over again.
Thank God.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yep.
There was voice acting.
Yes,
That-
not from Link, but yeah,
But it doesn't rule out the possibility.
it's true.
I think it's funny because if you think back to how they marketed Skyward Sword, the announcement of Skyward Sword was a disaster. Like it was a complete disaster. It was completely forgettable. It was terrible. And I think for a long time we wanted a new Zelda game, and all we wanted was just a nice, beautiful trailer, and we got that today. They
We did.
just
We
had
definitely
pretty
did.
Epic, awesome trailers showing
Yep.
off the world and the mechanics and all that shit. I am pretty fucking excited for this game.
I agree.
Still no. Well, I guess the release date is still going to stick with first quarter 2017.
Probably,
the
yeah.
NX. It's so weird that they actively refer to this as coming to the NX, which is a code name for a system we've never seen,
Right.
and it's coming out in like 9 months.
Mhm.
It's one of the 2 confirmed NX titles actually.
What was the other one?
Just Dance 2017.
Just Dance
Damn.
2017.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
right. They
Damn.
mentioned the NX by name when talking about Just Dance 2017.
I mean, it's the same thing with other previous console releases.
I know, but
they
usually
always
by this
refer to them
point
as a
we've
code
already
name.
seen it.
Doesn't that also kind of backdoor confirm that the NX is going to have some kind of motion control?
Or a camera.
yeah.
They also did confirm that you can play the entirety of this game with a pro controller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
game.
but Just
I'm
Dance
just saying.
requires a motion control.
Oh,
Unless you're going to do something weird with Just Dance.
Yeah, every iteration of Just Dance on every console uses some kind of combination of
peripheral.
motion control and or camera.
Aren't there some versions of Just Dance that you can like use your phone though?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's wirelessly
the
sent.
on-demand dance game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this
yeah.
one, you
Yeah.
have to actually tape like a bunch of U-draws onto you.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
They got to do something with this.
Yeah, where
They're gonna hook up.
motion
They're
capture
they're
suit.
finally gonna release those heartbeat
yeah, the
sensors for
sensors.
Nintendo, but
Yeah.
you have to hook them up to your nipples
Mm-hmm.
Flip 'em
while you
on.
dance.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's
What were we talking
insensitive,
about?
Nick.
Legend of Zelda.
Zelda.
What about people
Evidently-
that don't have nipples?
Oh,
I don't know.
that's gonna look bad for
Don't say.
Ubisoft.
Evidently, the game has Amiibo support.
Yeah.
Yep.
They announced new amiibos. I fucking hate amiibos. Why is it still a thing?
The curious
Why
thing
is it
about,
still a
the
thing?
curious thing about that is if the NX is going to have some sort of amiibo sensor, some
Or
sort of
content.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, right.
Nintendo would have to have
As
some
of
kind
now,
of additional
well,
content
yeah,
for
as of now, the
videos.
pad is where you set your amiibo
Yeah.
down, which
Right.
means something on the NX is going to have some sort of
They might
interactivity
just
with
put
it.
it on
Or
a
the
console.
console,
Well,
yeah.
just be simple.
In the demo, Link has this thing called the Sling Slate, Cheek Slate, or something like that.
Yeah, it looks exactly like the
It looks like
Wii
a
U
tablet controller, which most people are assuming that's because it looks like a Wii U tablet controller. But what if that's also reminiscent of what the controller for the NX looks like the default controller? I mean, because you've seen the prototypes, the rumored prototypes, where it looks like a.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's already come out as
Yeah,
That was
sure,
big,
but
yeah.
that doesn't mean that's not that's not far off from what it actually is. Like, what if what we're actually looking at is something that's reminiscent of what the NX controller is actually going to look like, and the tablet is it is just an evolved version of the tablet controller.
What if the controller is actually like a fetus with an umbilical cord, and
Whoa.
it's Kojima's new game?
Wow. And you have to cradle it.
Yes.
Death
Yeah.
Stranding is actually just the reveal of the NX.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
God. I
The
hope
reason
so.
I bring up amiibo support here is because there's a bunch of official screenshots out there, and evidently, if you use the Wolf Link amiibo, you get him as a companion when you're playing the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at a screenshot right
The
now.
Wolf
Yeah.
Link.
Wolf Link from Twilight Princess.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking
Yeah.
right at
Just
him
as
in,
the wolf.
in Breath of the Wild, which is weird.
He's
Wait,
got his own health bar and everything.
what is he in Breath of the Wild? Like a companion?
Yeah, like you can use the amiibo from Twilight Princess and it'll load him into Breath
Can
of
you
the
ride
Wild.
him?
Yeah.
as-
What?
I mean, it just shows Link standing there with the wolf right next to him.
Can you make him fetch?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Fetch quests.
Yeah. Can you
We
send
would
him off
have
to
to
kill
ask
enemies?
somebody who made the game.
Which we can do.
But yeah, it looks promising.
Yeah.
We didn't see any boss fights or anything, did we? I mean,
no.
I didn't see
didn't,
all of
but
the problem is
they
they
kept
were
going all
yeah
day.
they were going like almost all day, and I haven't had
Yeah.
a chance to look at anything that they've streamed out. And I was-
Yeah.
I mean, I caught a glimpse of them in some kind of fucking dungeon, so I imagine at some point they fought a boss.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about it. Like I said, we're probably waiting until tomorrow or Thursday to actually play it, and once we've actually got our hands on it, we will talk more about it. So let's move on to some of the other stuff we've actually played. I'll save my thoughts for Resident Evil 7 towards the end of the show. I know, Bob, you didn't play much today on the show floor,
No, I only played one game.
but the one game you played is something I definitely want to hear about.
Mhm.
What game did you play, Bob?
I played Sea of Thieves.
Sea of
Ooh.
Thieves
That was
Sea of
called?
Thieves.
for the
Yeah.
X-Bone.
Yeah. Is it an exclusive? I can't remember.
Well, it's
Yeah.
PC and X-Bone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a Windows. Microsoft exclusive.
Yes. So, what did you think of Sea of Thieves?
The line was long.
Meh.
Dude,
Yeah.
dude, one thing I don't want to go on a tangent here, but like
Yeah, let's do it.
dude, E3 this year is
It's-
so crowded.
I mean, just throwing bows left and right, just trying to get through places.
oh my god.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, the West Hall is. The South Hall, I went down there and I looked around. And
Yeah.
outside of maybe the front, it's just
Well, that's because the
Desolate.
West
Yeah.
Hall is where they have Nintendo and Sony
I know.
and Xbox and like everything right fucking next to each other. Maybe you
Yeah.
could have put those guys in different halls. That might have helped
I mean,
things.
I
the
walked
real-
up to Elder Scrolls Legends and I was able to play right away. There wasn't anybody there.
because nobody
Shocking.
cares too much
But
about
I mean,
it.
I think part of that problem of just the crowding over in the West Hall is because the South Hall is missing quite a few big names like Activision,
Yeah.
like Sega, like Bandai,
and they've replaced them with giant empty spaces
Yeah.
with like chairs for people to sit in and
Yep.
take a load off. We have this giant empty space that used to be Activision.
there's one I guess a retailer there that's taken up where Activision used to be, and they're showing off these domes that you can
Oh,
reflect
yeah.
games off
Yeah,
of to
I saw the
watch and
domes.
play.
That
And,
sounds cool.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but then again, what the fuck?
Sounds
is the point
like-
if you
That
guys
sounds
need-
really cool. Domes are the future,
Yeah.
Chris Davis.
Just imagine like trying
Fuck
to play,
VR. It's all about domes now.
Yeah,
We're
you're-
all into domes.
Just to get Battlefield 1 in there and Snoop Dogg, you hotbox the entire thing.
Get lit as fuck.
All right, I'm sorry. Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, no,
Yes. So yes, lines were long.
Yeah, so they actually announced this game at last E3, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, most of us did.
Yeah,
But they showed it again. This is Rare's new game.
yeah, right.
So they showed it again at this year's conference, and maybe we had some questions about it. You've
So
played it.
details are still sparse. They're not really saying too much outside of like with the demo they have on the floor is kind of what they showed at the Microsoft conference.
Yeah.
It is 3 teams of 5 people, each start on different islands in an ocean, and then you basically get on your ship and you go and try to shoot each other like, with your cannons and whatnot.
As pirates do.
As pirates, yeah.
Why?
Why? Because
Because you're pirates.
reasons.
And that's the way of the sea.
It's pretty much just like a multiplayer battle arena. Like there was no scoreboards. There was no kind of like
So
match
this is,
ended or anything.
This
so it was
sounds
very,
like this is like you said, like arena based. Like you play a match of Sea of
But
Thieves.
the problem is that it didn't have any of the arena mechanics you would think about. Like there was no scoring. There was no like this match is beginning, this match is ending. There was nothing like that to really indicate that it was.
So it's kind of
actually,
just like a bare bone demo of like
yeah,
one
I
mechanic.
mean, either it's not finished.
Did you die?
No.
Okay.
No, my team
Could
won.
you die?
You could die.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened when you died?
You would reset onto the island. Either you would, if you died in the water. So there's ships that can be manned by 5 people. They can have different stations. You can fall off the ship, and there's a ropes ladder on the side. You can actually try to get back onto the ship. Otherwise, I think you can either die in the water and reset, and you'll appear on your ship. If your ship hasn't sunk, if your ship sinks, everybody resets and goes to their island.
Could you climb onto the enemy ship?
Yes, you could.
But
So
there's
there's-
nothing to do. You said?
can't. The only items you have available to you is a boards, planks you can use to repair holes in the walls to keep yourself from sinking when you get shot.
Which we saw.
You have an accordion. You can play music. And you
That's
have
the next logical step. That's the next logical item you should have.
and
on
you
a pirate
have
ship.
a mug full of grog. That's it.
Nice.
That's all you have.
And you drank your grog, right?
Yeah.
You get drunk?
Yeah, you can get drunk.
How does a multiplayer game like this with teams not have swords or shit like that?
No melee weapons that they had. This is probably a really early demo. Like I think what it was is that this game was in concept back when they showed the initial trailer last year, and now we're kind of seeing what they're able to show right now.
They've got like the one mechanic.
Mhm.
They're still
the
like
ship
I'm
combat.
they're still at like 20-30% done.
I'm imagining you like swinging over and boarding someone's ship, landing and being like,
and then drink
Now-
a grog
now what?
and start playing accordion.
exactly, like,
and then they
well-
all jump off their ship and
I
die.
had plenty of time to watch some matches, and like I saw one ship going across another ship, just kind of T-bone them, and a person leapt from the prow of the boat onto the other boat and was just running around the boat playing the accordion because they had nothing else to do. Like they couldn't do anything
Well,
else.
then I'm glad I didn't wait in line to play this game. Then, if that's
That
the
is so-
status it's currently in.
Yeah, there's
so fucking dumb.
that is so weird.
yeah, but if you that's all kind of the
think the
disappointing part
developers
so
were like,
far.
Oh shit, we never thought
I
of
mean-
Right.
What are they gonna do when they get on the boat?
Well, so I think that the game definitely plays. It's still fun because even without all those things, you still have a lot there.
Yeah.
Like I think they turned off collision damage, and they probably turned off melee combat because they didn't want people just boarding each other's ships like immediately and just turning it into just a melee.
Why not?
Because
It might not
same thing
work
that would have
yet.
happened.
I mean,
in,
If you were a
Guns
smart
Vickers.
team, you would have just stayed off to the side
Yeah.
and shot at them.
Just to play devil's advocate here, you guys are acting like this game's launching in 6 months.
no, yeah, it's
No,
it's,
but
like-
it is really. It does sound like a really weird stage to be demoing it.
But first,
It's not
combat
finished.
between PvP should be like a basic mechanic of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably will be when they have more than like 20% of the game
what
done.
I think is that they were trying to focus
They should
on the
probably-
ship.
Heck,
to ship.
Microsoft was probably just like, you better put something together to
Yeah.
show. So they took everything out that doesn't work, and this is what you have left.
Yeah, and they really wanted to like it was all about cooperating and focusing on the ship to ship combat because we were broken up into teams. You got a T-shirt based on what team you're on. I think I was in the Mermaid's
Mermaid's Bounty.
Bounty.
That's what it said.
Yeah. So each ship was named differently, and you had every crew had individual names. They had like plaques on like each person you were playing, and each team had their own headsets with mics to talk to each other while you're playing the game because you need to coordinate. Like if you're on
So
the
that-
helm, you can't see where you're going.
That was my question: is what coordination is needed? So I mean, I know
Quite a
there's the
bit.
helmsman, and they need help guiding where the ship goes.
Mm-hmm.
How do the weapons work?
So there are, I believe, 5 cannons on each side.
Okay.
So there you have 5 people, but you can. There's actually a lot of mechanics with the wind because there's wind direction, there's wind speed. You can adjust how high and low you furl the sails, and you can adjust the angle of the sails. So you can actually get your ship going really fast. And if you need to take do a quick turn, you drop your anchor and you just stop the ship and you turn it super quickly, so you can actually get an angle on another ship coming at you. So if you can coordinate well, you can kick people's asses.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's all that's why they were focusing on this ship to ship stuff, and I think that's why they didn't have melee combat is because people would have been jumping out of the ships into the water trying to stab each other. Like
Yeah.
they wanted to focus on this, like, okay, we're all going to work together. We're going to show you how to man this ship, and you could do things like if someone's trying to steer the ship and you can't see anything because there's a huge piece
Yeah.
of cloth in front of you, either you have someone up in the crow's nest that says, there's someone off to our left, let's try to veer a little more to the right around these rocks, or you got to avoid this thing, or you have someone go down there and kind of furl the sails a little, and they move the sails up so you can actually see under the sails.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be going as fast.
How does traversal of the ship work? Like getting up to the crow's nest and stuff like that.
It takes a while to get up to the crow's nest because the crow's nest is way up there.
Yeah. Do you physically just have to climb the whole
Yeah,
way?
you have to climb. Like everything's first person.
How do you
everything
get down?
interact with.
Can you jump?
You can jump off. There's no fall damage from what they have.
Oh, well.
Yeah, or if you're unlucky, you'll fall in the water and then you have to swim back onto the boat. We lost someone. We had a man overboard, so we had to drop anchor mid fight and then have them get on the boat. Unfortunately, to the two
He's a
other
lost
people
cause. He's gone. We have to keep going.
Yeah, but we did things like I was steering the boat and I'd call out what side they were on and then we'd fire and I would just kind of turn the wheel all the way to one side so we would just be turning and I would run away. Go down underneath the deck and start patching holes because the ships move relatively slow and they keep turning slowly. So I could kind of run back and forth from the helm to the bottom and just patch things as we're getting fired at. So we could try to multitask while you're in these fights. It's interesting. They don't have a lot of there's only really just a cannon. You don't reload it. You don't reload the cannonballs. There's no grape shot. There's no chains and balls that are gonna knock the sails down.
No chains and balls.
Yeah. I could imagine. And I know it's not real, but I mean, so your ship gets a hole in it, so you patch it, so that patch is farther back, and this constantly keeps happening, and I guess your ship just keeps shrinking because you keep patching it closer and closer in. Does that make sense?
Or you just have one
the walls
patch
get
that
too
just
thick.
keeps
Yeah,
stacking
yeah,
on top
yeah.
of each other.
Well, the ships get beat the fuck up. We went by another one of the other ships that we were just about to sink, and its side was just riddled with holes. The entire hull was just Swiss cheese. And they had patched it and kept patching it, but the damage stays there. You can just see this just wrecked ship.
Shoot a hole in the side of the ship, and then you see a guy inside that hole, and he's
You probably could.
reading pirate's booty or something like that.
And he's holding it and there's a cannonball hole in it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome once they get the game to a point where you can actually once you sink a ship, take all the prisoners on board and execute them. That'll be great.
Make them walk the plank.
Yeah, take all
I
their stuff.
I can maybe see them making them walk the plank. I don't know about the shooting in the
No, just get them down and just pop one in the back of the head, then take all their booty and dump their bodies for the sharks.
So you do start on an island.
This is rare. This is rare, Crispy.
Yeah, you do start on an island. You kind of start in a tavern, a shanty, and then you kind of go out to a pier. Then you can get onto your ship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where everybody starts on the islands, and if your ship sinks, you restart on the island, and then you can go back on the ship. That's why I was saying there's no real matches or anything.
Gotcha.
They manually reset the game.
Well, I'm interested in this game. I just really want to see where it goes. from
Yeah,
here.
no, that's all we know about it is basically what I just described.
It
There's
sounds like I
speculation,
might wait
but
until the next time they show up.
We'll
to
probably
play
skip
myself.
it for this show, but next year's E3.
I'm glad you took a hit for the team and played it.
I was the first thing. I went straight into the line there, as soon as the doors opened, because I was just oh, here's
If
the line,
lines
whatever.
weren't so bad, I'd probably go give it a shot right now.
Yeah, I mean maybe on Thursday if it's slow, if you can go and just poke your head in there, because it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I played with one of the developers on our team, which is probably why. He said that his team had never sunk through that in the first couple hours in the morning. His team kept winning when they cycled people in. I think it was because of his guidance. Because he was giving us a lot of really good pointers on all right, now we need to drop the anchor because we're gonna go do a 360 or go pick someone else, pick someone else up. So if you have a good direction and good teamwork, it seems like it could be a lot of really fun. Cool. But it's just
I am excited for it
mechanics
because it is rare.
Yeah,
and they have a cool style to their games. We haven't really had a really great rare game in a while. And I have high hopes for this when it's maybe in a more completed state.
I mean, if it in its current state, if they don't get any new mechanics and it's just as is, it has
no future,
no real hope of setting sail.
I'm sure they'll add some stuff.
Bob!
Would you just say? Would you say?
Save it for the show, Bob.
Development is going to run aground.
Okay.
No, you don't get this back.
They could have a burial at sea.
My pen.
You threw your pen at me.
Actually threw your pen into his eyeball and then he took it. All right.
That's pretty much all I played. I just looked at some other stuff.
Did you see
Thank
the
you, Bob.
pirate band playing shanties over there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
They have a giant statue. They have There's a crazy guy
I mean,
with
that's
like a skeleton arm and stuff.
There's a lot of aesthetic and a lot of mood and a lot of shit around this game that's
Yeah.
not a game. Like
It's just a bare
I
bones
know, I know.
multiplayer game that right now. So like, I was actually next
dare
to
they.
line with like someone who actually runs a website that's dedicated, like a fan website for this
For
game.
just Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
it seems like they spent more time building their set on the E3 show floor than making the game.
Potentially.
I said that's what it seems like.
seems-
I didn't
yeah.
say that's what the case is.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
like they got programmers out there like laying walls for the fucking booth.
Yeah, but they actually had like a hardwood, like wood planks
Yeah.
on the booth, so it was like
That's
you're
cool.
on a deck of a ship.
yeah.
But
That's
imagine
neat.
that's
They had
gotta,
real
that's gotta suck for the
rats.
people
I like
working.
it, I like
the
it
booth,
when publishers bring their A game and start making like elaborate booths, except when it doesn't really make sense because like for instance Bethesda's booth has all these like crazy things where you
Dude.
can like walk around and see all these like
Oh, I recorded
models
it
from
all.
inside like from sets that would be inside their games, but there's no games.
Yeah.
They have
Dude.
nothing to really play except for I think there's a demo of Elder Scrolls Online.
There's a giant.
But you can walk through Emily's fucking whatever bedroom or whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah, you can
It
walk
was-
through
it was
it.
the same
Oh,
way
there's
last year,
and there's
though.
like a
I know.
lever that doesn't do anything and buttons that don't do anything.
If
and
you
they've
go
got
into
a
the Prey
replica
2
of the
room, they have
heart.
this like weird thing in the
Oh.
this thing in the middle where it looks like they're keeping some kind of like alien creature and there's like fog inside of it. And I think after every once in a while it's supposed to like you're supposed to see some like hand like hit the side or like there's something being held inside
there
of
for a
it. But I
while.
sat there and looked at it for like 2 minutes and I was like, what am I doing?
The
Yeah.
guy
What am I doing?
The guy was on break.
Yeah, it's a porta potty.
Dude, I mean, I was there for a while too. I was
the
there for a
porta-
while. I was there for a while too, and it didn't do anything.
I think you saw someone having sex.
that booth is really big and has a lot of money in it and does absolutely nothing to tell you what that game's about or build any hype whatsoever.
It really is. It's the
Like
exact same
it's
as
so
last year.
fucking weird. The only
It's so
thing
strange.
playable in Bethesda's booth is Elder Scrolls Legends.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm
I
gonna
did play
tag team out so Tim can get in here.
All right, Tim's gonna come in.
That is all I have. I'm
Seriously, I want
useless.
to call it seriously tag team. Let's tag it.
Tag,
Tag it in.
I need to grab my.
Body slam.
All right, so now let's just kind of go down our list. We've talked about 2 big ones right now, so let's. But we are.
While you look,
Why would you sit there?
Why would you do that?
go ahead. One more thing about that Bethesda booth, they have 4 or 5 kiosks for Quake Champions, and all it's showing is the trailer.
Yeah.
They're kiosks that have a desk area for a mouse and keyboard or controller or instructions. Nothing there. It's just a monitor showing that same trailer, all of them, and they're not even synced.
What if the build's fucked?
Yeah.
It's probably what happened.
Man.
Dude, they did have Doom VR and I think Fallout VR.
Yeah.
But they're in like appointment only, so they just have these glass offices where you see people in suits playing Doom VR, and you kind of like point at them and laugh like they're in a zoo. That's great.
I'm pretty certain those kiosks for Quake are really just to sign up for a newsletter.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
There's nothing
There is
there.
nothing there physically. There's a kiosk with nothing but a monitor.
So let's not talk about nothing anymore. Let's talk about
Something.
something. So
How about we talk about Neo?
Neo.
okay. Shit, yeah. Let's talk about Neo.
So myself and Crispy both played Neo.
I watched.
Did.
I watched Crispy play a little bit of it.
Yep, it's a new area
did?
that he did.
I was there for like the first 5 or 6 minutes. You were there.
A new area that wasn't in the alpha.
I really-
And so
You know, I took
Oh
you
yeah,
to
that's right. I
we
guess
don't need to
walked in
talk
there.
about
Okay, okay.
that.
I completely.
It's a new area. It wasn't in the alpha. A bunch of no new weapon types or anything like that. Same weapons, but new enemy types.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of like a dungeon, like a crypt of sorts with what are those clay statues?
Like the terracotta.
Yeah,
soldiers.
terracotta soldier type things,
And,
and
like,
you could break them, but every once
most
in a
of
while,
them were
one of them
fake,
would come
but
alive,
yeah.
and stuff like that. There's some some of those Japanese,
Oni.
Oni, like the floating skulls on fire.
Here's my big question. This is one thing. The reason I wanted to see this game super hardcore for this during the show.
Uh-huh.
I want to know, were the changes they talked about post alpha present here?
Like what? He's like mumbling.
I'm just reading this thing.
He's reading it. He's reading out quiet.
I thought you were on the phone, but then the cover was like, "There's no phone." He's talking to himself.
I'm going crazy.
Oh my God, Bob's
change-
losing it.
What changes were you looking for, Nick?
Well, they had a whole list.
I don't have those memorized, so I can't.
You played like 1,000 hours of the demo. That's why I'm
I
asking.
played like 4 hours of the demo
Well, I played like 5 minutes of the alpha when it was on
or alpha.
PSN.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it immediately, kind of just because of character movement. Like, it just felt really... This is probably stupid, because I think you start in water.
You start right at the edge of water.
Yeah, I don't think I ever even got out of the water, so maybe the character movement was fine the whole time, and I just didn't play enough to realize. But this time when I played it, it felt a lot better. It felt like a Dark Souls game. Like,
Yeah.
it felt like Dark Souls.
It's very much like Dark Souls.
Like,
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Did you?
straight
So
up a Dark Souls clone.
I didn't. I only got to play it for a little while, and I completely had forgotten everything I had learned in the alpha.
Yeah.
Completely
It's a
forgot the
complex
controls.
game.
Yeah, no, it is very complicated. By the end of the alpha, I was really good at it. And of course, that was like a month and a half ago, 2 months, whenever. So when I started playing this, I was getting my ass handed to me over and over and over. Because much like a Souls game, it is very easy to, once you get hit, you can just instantly die because, you get...
Chained.
Chain attacks will easily take you down, even from just random enemies. So I died several times, and then, I encountered this big Cyclops creature who kicked my ass like twice, and then I finally killed him. But then I couldn't go anywhere because the door wouldn't open. I don't know.
So here's some of the things that I remember being changed. There were some changes to the UI. They weren't super specific about it, but there was some complaints about the UI being kind of hard to follow and read. I think even one of the things you had said is you had problems reading some of the UI.
But the thing is, I can't remember if I saw like Soul. I don't know. It's not something I noticed.
The big thing they did was they dropped the weapon durability feature.
None of my weapons broke while I was playing.
See, when I played it, I broke my first weapon in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So if your weapon wasn't losing durability or breaking during this demo, it sounds to me like you were playing the updated version.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they have announced that this demo that we've been playing.
Did they actually
at E3,
say that, or they just said a new one's coming?
Well, they said that this demo. Yeah, they said in the press
Their
release.
press
this
release
demo-
said this demo is coming out. That's what
Yes,
it said.
They said it's coming out.
That's a
in-
weird way to word a press release. This demo's coming out.
Well, it's part of the paragraph. There's several
The
paragraphs.
demo
in this.
that you are playing at E3 is going to be made public in
Yes,
August.
In August.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I feel like saying that it's very Dark Soulsy, but with samurais,
That's what
Kinda-
everyone else has been saying.
kind of covers it.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, once again, it was just this new area, and it's the only area they were showing.
dude, that boss, like that final
Cyclops?
boss. Was it a Cyclops?
Yes.
The big. Well, okay, so there was a giant thing, and then there was a slightly smaller motherfucker, and then there was a terracotta soldier, and they were all. chasing me around and murdering me.
there was
That sucked.
so the smaller motherfucker, is that the guy that spawned out of like the shadows or whatever?
I didn't see where he came
and he was
from.
like,
He just showed up.
or was it
I
like
think
a?
there were
was
actually
it, was
multiple demos you could pick from, or multiple levels in this demo.
I think we were in the same one.
Well, when we asked the representative, he said that was just the single. There was just the single demo. I don't know.
Maybe
Anyway, was he humanoid or was he
They
like
were,
a monster?
yeah, they were both humanoid.
Okay, so there's the monster type creatures were in the previous, and they're the kind of first almost boss, not boss, the first enemy you come up against. There's like this
There's
gray
that
and black
one. Yeah.
that spawns up, not
Right.
not the giant guy.
No.
Okay.
There's one like mid-level boss that
Correct.
you fight, and then later on you go into a big room that has a bunch of those terracotta soldiers.
Okay.
And a lot of like raised.
So that
topography
mid-level
and-
guy,
yeah.
he's not a boss. He's just
No,
like a
no,
random
yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
And I know. And the thing is, when I first played the
He-
alpha, you come up against it. You're in this area, and there's nothing else you can do until you come up to this one final guy. I'm like, this is a fucking boss.
Yeah.
And the first time I played the alpha, it took me like 3 or 4 times to beat him, and I finally beat him, and I was relieved. And then he dropped a key, which opened the door to a whole nother fucking area where there was an actual boss. So I mean, those guys become almost like regular enemies.
Yeah, that like in Dark Souls, where like you meet higher powered levels early in the game, then later in the game they're just
just
standard
there. Yeah.
ads. Like yeah,
So the one other guy you came across that's kind of a big humanoid that was like pacing back and forth.
Yeah.
I was never able to kill that guy. He was very quick. He was a very fast and very hard hitting enemy, and I just wasn't ever, because the problem is normally you would dodge, and the problem is his attacks go straight, so you don't want to dodge back because then you're still in the line, so you don't want to dodge side to side, but you're in these like thin hallways that are very
that
narrow.
room they put you in, it's impossible to tell like where you're dodging into,
Yeah.
and you just get stuck.
I would constantly, because there was a lot of dead ends, and I would constantly be back. So it's at least in this one new area, you have to be very aware of your surroundings and know what's going on. Otherwise, you could just kind of
again,
screw
it's very
yourself.
Dark Souls. Half the challenge is just the environment in which you're fighting.
Definitely.
That's ridiculous, but it's cool. The other thing we played while we were there was Attack on Titan,
Yes.
which
Surprisingly
was
good.
pretty cool.
Surprisingly good.
I'm not even a fan of the anime. I've never watched it or anything. Never read the manga, but so I'm not 100% sure what the hell's going on.
So
But-
brief recap. A bunch of Titans show up. Everyone's like, Titans, half, like 90% of the population dies. And so they build all these walls, and they hide in the walls from the Titans. And then the Titans all of a sudden one day start breaking down the walls and coming in. And so they have this group of soldiers called the...
I don't know what they're called.
Survey Corps?
Whatever.
That's like the. I know that's like the advanced unit, but yeah, they're basically just the soldiers.
Yeah, whatever. They have these soldiers that are trained with these...
Oh, in the demo, you're in the recruit corps.
Yeah.
But,
I forget what is the movement gear called?
Omnidirectional
movement. Yeah.
Yeah, omnidirectional movement.
So you have these units that allow you to shoot out spikes and fly around, so you can get up high and attack the Titans. But yeah, and so that omnidirectional, it's almost like Spider-Man in this. It's just very easy. You press the button and then you go. It's very intuitive. It's not hard to get used to. It was one thing I was very worried about.
It's more slingshotty than it is like swinging.
Yes,
though.
yeah. So it's very much what you get pulled in a direction instead of swinging. But you can swing, especially if you're on a Titan. Like if you latch onto them, you can swing around their body, because you would often have to do that because there is physics in this game. So if you were to go and you're facing for those that don't know the anime, a Titan's weak spot is the nape of their neck. If you cut off their arm will regenerate. If you cut off their face will regenerate.
I'm wondering why they were doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you cut the bottom of their neck, the nape of the neck, they will die. So that is your goal.
That's a very weird.
Whatever. And so the goal of these soldiers is to use their omnidirectional gear to get up to the nape of their neck and make a V-shaped slice.
incision.
Yeah, on the neck to kill them. And so if you're facing one, you can't really hit the nape of their neck. So I mean, you could what you could do is you can face them and still latch on, but then start going off to the side and spin around and use your momentum to then sling yourself around and hit their neck.
Yeah.
But other things you can do is, like in the anime, you could target different parts of their body. You can take out. The problem is if you're in front of them, they can grab you and they'll fucking
They'll
eat
just
you.
eat you if you don't.
Yeah, so what you can do is you can cut off their arms. They can't grab you anymore. You can cut off their legs and they'll fall to the ground, which makes them an easier target. And so it takes getting used to, because you can just exploring the world. So you press square and you go whatever, but you can't attack until you go into attack stance, which you do when you're near a Titan. It'll give you like this little or golden box thing that kind of comes up that makes a smaller boxes that kind of makes almost like a cone that points in the direction of the closest Titan. And you go into attack mode, and then when you're in attack mode, anytime you press the omnidirectional gear button, it will latch on to that Titan. At whatever point you're currently focused on, you can use the right analog stick to target either legs, arms, or neck.
Yeah.
And so you press that. What's up?
Static pops.
Feel mute, please.
I mean, yeah. All right, is the static popping gone? Nobody touched anything, which is really weird that all of a sudden it would start popping. I don't know if it's
We'll
still
find
there.
out in a second. It didn't look like on the
Okay, well, cool.
wavelengths.
So you use this omnidirectional gear to get around. At first I did like a training montage where you're in the forest and there are these big cardboard cutouts of Titans, and it's kind of teaching you how to use your omnidirectional gear because it's powered by gas. And so if you run out of gas, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And so you have to. There are members of this army that their sole purpose is refueling and giving you, some resupply.
blades.
Yeah. So their blades are kind of like X-Acto knives or whatever, where you can kind of break off the tip.
Yeah.
And so
They have to carry these things on their hips, which, I mean, I guess if you watch the show, they do this too, but they carry these things. They have a bunch of those blades in them. They pop the blades out. They can, pull out new blades and then just keep slashing until those break, and then they keep replacing them over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the demo we played had 3 segments. It had the training, it had Titans attacking the city and you defending, which I did, and that's where I stopped. But that's because after a while, some of the huge Titans started coming in, and how much damage you do is based on how much speed you have. So if you latch onto them and you're going slowly, you're not going to do a whole lot of damage. But if you use the boost properly and you get it just right, you can do a ton of
You
damage.
get this
to them.
really cool anime thing where you're zooming in, and then you do a slash, and it's like and it throws up a big
it's a
number,
really good
and you're
feeling
like,
when you
"Fuck
combo
yeah."
it.
So is the game just like nothing but Titan battles?
No. No, so it's very also
demo.
heavily story driven. I skipped most of the story stuff because I only had a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And the story follows the anime. So I kind of already
Is it
knew what
like
was going
cutscene,
on.
and then you go into arena and fight a
Well,
Titan?
so
or
the
is it-
problem is, like I said, it was broken up into 3 parts. The first part was literally just like a training segment, getting you used to using the omnidirectional
You're
gear.
like out in the
The
woods.
second one was, hey, we're these new recruits, and the city's under attack, blah blah blah. There are side missions,
Yeah.
so we're in this open world, and you can go over here and you can recruit someone to follow you and help you attack Titans. There are people you can go and talk to, and they'll give you like missions.
What you have to realize is this game is made by Omega Force.
Yeah.
Omega Force made Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
They have a formula that's all they've ever done. And this game kind of matches that formula. Instead of it being like invading armies that are fighting one another, it's these humans against these Titans.
Mm-hmm.
So you will run across characters that will die out in the world
Yeah.
if you are not killing Titans and trying to save
If
civilians
you're
and
not
a
good
bunch of
enough,
things.
people will die.
Yeah.
But
Or
what,
you will die.
it was really cool. Just when I started getting the hang of it, and this huge like 5 or 6 Titans came in, and I was like, oh shit! But I was able to just like lock onto the nape of one and go from one to the other, and just started chain killing them because it really depends on the timing of your latching on and your boosting to get closer to them. And if you get it right, man, you can just combo them, and it feels so fucking good. Like getting it because it does like a slowdown animation when you're getting onto the nape of them. Sorry, and depending on the character you're playing, there's different characters that come out of the show. They have different attacks. So like in that city, Crispy, where you picked up after me, you were playing Mikasa.
Yeah.
Who's a character from the show, and she's like a fucking amazing Titan killer. So she can actually do multiple attacks on the
Yeah.
nape of someone's neck.
So like once you get a hit in, you can keep attacking, and she'll like swing around them and keep coming back and doing more hit. It's really cool. The one thing I will say is the movement system isn't perfect.
Oh, it's
like
definitely
it's really tricky in the city.
Mm-hmm.
In the forest, it was fine when it was just like swinging you through trees. But
Yeah.
when you're in the city and there's like buildings of different heights, like
You can
it
hit
gets
a
really,
wall,
It's
and
really fucky about how it decides to anchor you onto shit.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The thing is, that's probably really hard to program.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of logic. Like, what is the best? What direction do I think the character's trying to go? And so I understand that for what it is, it's kind of done well. Like I said, it's probably really hard to do, but that kind of leads to a almost realistic sense of if you're not good enough, like you kind of really have to know where you're going to go. There were a couple of times where I was trying to do something and I just like bumped into a Titan's face, and like it just killed my
There's
momentum.
a lot
so
of-
fucking creepy.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
they do.
these are like the ones you fight in the demo. These are like baby titans called abnormals or something.
Abnormals, yeah.
They're basically just like mentally deficient children.
Yeah.
And they just like run around and like pick people up and eat them.
They have adult faces and no wieners.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, the adult titans look much creepier.
And unfortunately, I didn't
that's
get to
really
get to the third demo, which was Titan mode.
Yeah.
One of the things in the anime is there are some people who can turn into Titans. And so I assume that's what was that mode in that.
really?
You get, you
I
get to
feel
play
like I
as
don't
the
want to
Titan.
know this because I haven't watched the anime.
Well, then watch the anime. But yeah, so I surprised when this first got announced not too long ago. I was very skeptical But after playing it today, I probably am gonna play it. Like I actually had a really good time
I mean,
with
I'll
it.
probably rent it when it comes out. Yeah, it looks cool.
Well, that's cool.
What, Nick? What?
Sorry, I'm just
Tell
these are
me.
creepy as shit. I'm sorry. There's a naked Titan. It's all right. Moving on. Crispy and I went and saw Days Gone.
How was
today.
that? So it was just that.
It literally,
theater demo.
It was a theater demonstration. I think all of these theater demonstrations, for the most part, are the same.
Yeah.
Where it's basically what we saw at the conference, plus about 5 or 6 minutes of extra
Yeah.
footage in there. But that 5 or 6 extra minutes, it provided some insight.
It showed a little bit more.
Basically, what it was. So if you remember the demo, he got chased by the zombies. He alerted the zombies when him and that guy fell off the roof, and then pretty much found his way right back into the barn, and then ran to the top, onto the roof, and then across the bridge onto this
Silo.
Yeah. And that's where the demo ended. And this game, before going back into the barn, he runs a few laps around the outside area and shows off a few areas where you can trigger traps to stop the zombies from coming towards you.
Can you give me an example of a trap?
He found a stack of logs,
Yeah.
and
Like there were some paint cans hanging from the staircase.
Yep. He threw marbles on the ground.
no,
Dude,
but-
that would actually be probably pretty
did
effective
one
against
thing.
zombies.
He did one thing where he had grabbed a couple items and he crafted an airbag bomb and he attached it to a stack of logs, and when the zombies came by, it exploded and launched a bunch of logs
That's cool.
kind of
Vertically?
laterally,
Yeah, or laterally,
and knocked out a bunch of zombies, which is kind of
And
neat.
that-
They also showed in the very beginning. I don't know if they showed this in the E3 trailer, in the press conference trailer, but in the very beginning, he actually gets items and stuff and supplies from his motorcycle, and they talk about how the motorcycle is a huge part of your character because not only is it your main mode of transportation around the open world, but it also supplements your inventory, it refills ammo and shit like that.
That's cool.
So he did some of that. He did a little bit more scavenging. He did the same thing with the oil filter. He made a silencer.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but okay.
Well, actually, you can use oil filters for silencers. You have to put an adapter on it and drill through it, though. You
Yeah.
can't just
It'll probably work.
pop it
It'll
on.
probably work like
It
once.
would probably be better if you maybe took the oil out of it.
yeah, yeah.
What's up, Nick?
One thing, because he had a few talking points before he started the demo again, and they kind of briefly said this, but they kind of glazed over a little bit in the press conference demonstration. But I think the main, a big part of the story and the main character, he is a bounty hunter, and that they didn't.
How? What the fuck did bounty hunters do in the apocalypse?
It's post-apocalyptic, so I mean, this is
Apparently, people still fucking hate each other for whatever reason in the apocalypse.
So,
So, someone sent him after this dude, which I mean, they talk about in the press conference trailer too. Like he's hunting somebody for a contract or whatever.
Yeah, but it's just I quickly forgot what that whole relationship was, that whole dynamic after the zombies showed up. But so he is a bounty hunter. So I'm wondering what kind of impact that's going to have in the gameplay. Is that going to be a mechanic? Are you going to be collecting? Is the whole game driven by going out and finding these contracts? Who the hell knows? But I just thought that was kind of interesting and something that I had completely forgotten because you tend to forget a lot of stuff when all of a sudden all these zombies show up. Yeah. And once again, Jesus Christ,
They're an
so
incredible
many zombies.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot that was different that we can really go into more detail about because, like I said, a lot of it was just what we saw at the conference. But there was a couple other traps besides the logs that he showed us. I'm trying to remember specifically.
There was
what they
one
were.
where he ran past a pile of lumber, 2x4s.
Yeah.
And he cut a rope holding them up, and they fell down in the.
Yeah.
I think that's what Nick was talking about earlier.
No, there was logs along the ground, and he put that bomb there.
Yeah.
No. No. Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Besides that, there wasn't really anything else.
Yeah.
There was that one. There was the logs.
I'm a little.
There was exploding barrels, which hasn't been original in 30 years.
But it did seem like, because I watched it, they released it online, and at the moment in which he's setting up that trap on the logs, it looks like he got far enough away from the zombies in which he could actually escape if he wanted. But
Theoretically.
I guess he just wanted to.
Theoretically. And honestly, one thing I'm a little concerned about, and I'm not sure if they did this for the demo or what to make sure that the demo goes smoothly, but it seems to me like they almost turned off their actual attack animations.
No, they did.
because there were moments where like the zombies actually catch up to him and they don't do anything.
Yeah, they kind of just like
we saw that a couple times in the press.
It was at
Yeah,
it was at the very end when he's walking down that bridge. A bunch of zombies like kind of surge over the bodies of the dead zombies, and they run up and they're just kind of like bumping into him like this
Yeah.
because the guy was taking too long to back up. I mean, but that's the nature of E3 demos because these aren't really that representative of the game at all. This is like a very controlled stage.
It would also explain why he was so comfortable
Experience.
waiting until the last possible second to move.
Yeah.
Like there was times where like zombies were literally like reaching towards him to grab him, and he would like at that point he would start turning the camera so he could start running in the other direction. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Which I think partially is to build tension, but I knew it wasn't going to cause any problems. I'm assuming, but I think it still looks really promising. I just want to know more.
It's cool.
and I
They haven't
want
really
their-
shown enough to get me like hooked on it. And if you saw the press conference trailer, you still have seen pretty much.
I mean, yeah,
most of what's
they're
going on.
leaning really heavily though into
There's more crafting. Just know that.
There's more crafting. It's open world. I think I want to see what kind of open world it is, but like I think they're leaning really heavily right now. Like the selling point, the main bullet point on their list is look at how many zombies we have on screen, because holy shit, there's a ton of them, and like they're so aggressive, which was really intimidating. Especially if they will actually attack you when they catch up to you. That's gonna have to get fixed. But that's days gone. We'll know more about that
Yeah, we can't really
eventually.
spend any more time.
I forgot. So because Crispy asked me, he's like, "What was Sony been known for?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to think." Siphon Filter. They're the Siphon Filter team. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
Siphon
That's from the
Filter.
past.
When was the last time anyone here thought about Siphon Filter?
PS1.
PS1.
Yeah.
Didn't they release
A PSP
a
game.
game of
To
several years ago?
answer, I've seen the question asked multiple times. No, there was no Scalebound demo
Scalebound is not on the show floor.
No.
Yeah.
in any capacity.
I don't even think it's backstage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chai,
Okay, so
what you got?
I spent some time. First game I got to play there was Shadow Warrior 2. A sequel to one of the best for action first-person shooters there is right now. Some of the best sword-based melee combat. Had a lot of contextual movement. Like if you were holding to the side and you do a certain slash, you'll do a 360 instead of a regular slash. Very action-based, but like think of it like Doom, current Doom. The way I was described, the new one, as I started playing it is Shadow Warrior meets Diablo meets Mortal Kombat for violence meets for
Why
violence.
don't we just go with
But-
Doom at that point?
But and as the dev said, the director is a huge fan of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance,
oh,
and a lot of those mechanics are in the game. Also, there is now loot because we already knew it was going to be a 4-player game, but what they've done now is that every level, even though the level itself is the same, the structure, some of the enemy placement, some of the items you may find is randomized. It's not procedurally generated, but you can find different versions of your weapons. You can find for example, the guy was saying you can find a modern version of a Desert Eagle, but you can also find an ancient demonic version of your Desert Eagle. And he said by that extension, the third version would be the futuristic Desert Eagle. They all have different attributes. They all fire differently, work differently.
Yeah.
But you can also slot them with abilities. So the SMGs that they gave me for the demo, he told me it was slotted for dual wield plus fire damage. The katana I had, I forget
Speaking
the
of damage.
Yeah.
There are damage numbers.
There are damage numbers, yes, because when you pick up gear, it will give you information about that gear, like the DPS it can deal, what elements are already attached to it, well, what can you change. Most of the weapons, actually all the weapons were given at first, different versions, some modern, some ancient, but there was multiple melee weapons. It's not just your sword anymore. So when I started, I had a sword and a glaive. The glaive it could swing slightly faster, but it did less damage. Sword had a little bit more reach. But partway through, I had found a chainsaw,
Yeah.
and it's one of the best weapons I've used in a melee game, because the chainsaw, when you swing it, it has 1 point of armor. You can go through attacks and just rip through people, or you can use the special attack button, because every melee weapon has a special attack button. For the sword, it's how you charge up your forward thrust, your fireball, your 360. For the chainsaw, all it would do is just hold it in front of you. Think like Doom 1, Doom 2, when you're just walking into things and chainsawing them.
Yeah.
But you can combine that with things like you have abilities that will work on both a mana meter and cooldown. So if there's an enemy that's giving you a particularly hard time, you could spike the ground, freeze him in place because now he's got a giant spike running through him, and just walk up and just hold the chainsaw in place. Does massive damage, and when he dies, he'll actually fall on the chainsaw and split in half. And you can even rotate the chainsaw if you wanted to, get like a little downwards angle on it. And there were so many things in there. Like there's parkour now. There, you can actually jump and cling to ledges because your character has a natural double jump and an air dash. And you can do all those things. Like if you knew you need to go forward really far, you don't need to turn, you can sprint, jump, air dash, and then jump again, and you retain all your momentum. So you just go flying across the map. Or the example, the guy was telling me, it's like, your objective's up there. You could walk up the stairs or go around this room. And he pointed me out towards a ceiling that seemed a little high, or a rooftop. I climbed on there, jumped across 3 rooftops, and got into that same objective. Much faster, much easier. The dash you can use on the ground. You can dash through walls in Japanese houses because they're thin, they're paper.
Yeah,
That's cool. But the monsters can destroy them. So you can have these combat situations where you're fighting monsters and you're trying to figure out, this one, when you look at it, it'll tell you, this monster is human type. It's large. It's invulnerable to fire. It has kinetic damage resistance.
Yeah.
So you want to start using magic abilities, and then it'll just charge at you. And you just sidestep, and you see him just go through a whole house. And there's so many little contextual things programmed like that.
Where's the demo for this?
This is in the Sony booth. There's only 2 stations, but not a lot of people seem to know about it yet.
Okay.
So
there's a lot of games in the PlayStation booth that tend to be like that. In fact, there's 1 or 2 that I'll talk about in a bit that were actually pretty easy to just walk up and play.
No, this is one you should try. And like the other things they added the Revengeance parry. You can actually any attack in the game, doesn't matter how big the enemy is, if it's a physical attack and you time it, you can stagger him with a parry and just go wild on him for a few seconds.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
I always like mechanics like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Bayonetta when you trigger the
witch time.
Witch time.
Exactly. And then
so good.
And then, like I said, with all the loot, 4-player, the design based around Diablo, with increasing difficulty, new game plus, and it's coming out this year. And just one more thing for the fans. Anyone that's played Shadow Warrior 1, this is really infamous for it. But I was playing and I saw a rabbit run by my foot. And I looked at it, I turned the whole camera and I brought out a gun. I just said to the dev, I said, "Is that a rabbit?" And he just said, "Yes." So if I shoot the rabbit, he said, "Yes." Bunny Lord, the enemy, is still in the game.
What is... Okay, so I'm not familiar with this.
Okay, so there were random rabbits in Shadow Warrior. You can even occasionally see them having sex, and you can kill them. But every now and then, the rate was low, but you'll try to kill a bunny, it will turn pitch black, metal music will play, the absolute hardest of metal, and the rabbit will turn rabbit and just destroy you. It is the hardest enemy in the game. And the way he told me is because...
You've never seen this clip?
I've never seen this before.
Oh, goodness. Yes. I'm going to load that up after.
And the way this game works is... No, before that was just an Easter egg. But now because you have skill trees, because you have abilities, you want to earn money, you want to get loot to improve your gear, you now have incentive to try to find and kill bunny lords, because bunnies do give you a decent amount of not experience but money with resources. Yes, there's resources, there's loot, it looks like there's going to be crafting, and you kind of want to kill the bunny to find it, but every time you kill one you risk bunny lord.
All right, I'm gonna go play this. I'll play it tomorrow. Thank you, Tim. I will add that to my list. What else we got? Noah, what else did you play today?
So the next kind of big game I played was this little game called Gwent. Myself and Crispy played it.
Sounds
boring. Well, it is kind of a little game.
Yeah, a little game.
Not, it is actually.
Can we move on?
So Chris Davis can fuck off. And while he's doing that, we'll talk about Gwent. Because it is a free-to-play multiplayer game for those that didn't know. But there will be a single-player story with campaigns that are about 10 hours per campaign, and there's multiple campaigns. I talked to the developer, but he would not tell me how many campaigns, but he did say that periodically they would be releasing new ones. So my assumption is this game is going to have at least 30-40 hours of single player campaign.
I can't play a card game for 30 or 40 hours.
And so that's the thing, Nick, is it's not a card game for 30 or 40 hours. How the single player works is it's an isometric, like, story based, like, world. So Geralt, you see him, little figure, and he's like walking around this world, and story happens. Like, what happened when we were watching it was they had come across an inn and they had found a dead person and they were trying to figure out what was going on. And so think of like the cutscenes, or not the cutscenes, but almost like the loading screens from Witcher 3, where there was that kind of storyboard almost movement,
Yeah.
but much more detailed, much more in depth. But like that, almost like storyboards or comic book panels is a good way to think of it.
Yeah.
Where there's
Cool art?
Yes, very, very, very cool art. Where it's very heavily story driven game. So a complete voice acting. Geralt was talking with these new people he was traveling with, and so we saw Geralt walking. They found a dead body. They were trying to figure out how that person died. So he was walking, but he kind of went off the beaten path and found a side quest. So there's optional side quest content. I think here they had found like a hidden area, and it had a bunch of chemicals. And one of the guys that Geralt was traveling around with like knew how to mix
Told him about,
he told him, if
like
you mix these
elven
chemicals,
bombs. And then it turned out to be Scorch.
and so
Like,
you end up getting a new card for your deck because you did the side quest.
Mm-hmm. It was cool. I mean, it is still Gwent from the Wild Hunt.
I would
mean,
say
there's
it's
a
about.
lot of,
I would say it's about 75% Gwent from the Wild Hunt. They
Well,
definitely added a lot.
Yeah, they haven't really changed the core mechanics of the game at all.
Correct.
They've tweaked it a little bit. They said they rebalanced it from the ground up, and they did do little things to kind of affect how some like card abilities and like passive abilities work. And they also added a bunch of new cards and new passive abilities. It's still the same 4 factions as before. So you have Northern Realms, Scoia'tael, Monsters, and Nilfgaard, or not Nilfgaard,
No.
the Skellige.
Skellige, yeah.
Yeah, but
well,
they're
Skellige's the new deck from
Blood and Wine.
Blood and Wine.
Okay.
It was Nilfgaardian.
But they're
Northern-
working on Nilfgaard for
Yes.
an expansion.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. It was a neat demo. We got to play against other people, which was nice. That I mean, that's the reason why this exists.
So just kind of a few things that they changed. Now at the beginning of the game, in Witcher 3, you would get to redraw 2 cards, like mulligans. Now you can do 3. There are premium 3D cards, which are really fucking cool. And so it's almost think
Basically, any rares.
Yeah, any of the rare cards. So think of like a holographic card that's like 3D and stuff, but you can move it on the screen and it looks like you're looking into a 3-dimensional image. Like the thing we saw was a fiend when they showed us the demo. And do you remember the fiend from Witcher 3? Like the big horned. But yeah, and so it was Geralt facing off against the fiend, but you could move it around and see in 3 dimensions. Like,
yeah, it's a 3D modeled mesh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Animated. Another cool thing was there could be like reactions to cards. So like sometimes if you're fighting an opponent, so you're not in The Witcher 3 you were Geralt playing Gwent against an opponent. But in this, it is like story, so you're like doing combat to an extent. It's like when you lay down the fiend card, you're not putting down a card, you're sending a fiend to attack the enemy kind of type. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like combat. When certain things happen, perhaps the character you're playing as, we saw this guy traveling with Geralt, react to the card. Like they played the card that causes fog to appear on the ranged row, and he was like, "Oh, where did this mysterious fog come from?" Like they will react to certain events and certain things
pretty cool.
happening.
Yeah.
So it's not just a static, put a card down and move on to the next turn, that kind of thing. I like that. I said I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was fun.
I can dig it.
They complete overhaul of the UI when you're actually playing. I mean, I'm sure you have seen some of it, but comparing them side by side, it is completely different. They added the ability to see where your opponent's cursor is. So you can kind of see what they're doing. Oh, they're looking at this card. They're doing this. Just because it's sometimes you're playing against someone. You're like, what the fuck is this person doing? Why are they taking so long? You can kind of see what they're doing. When we
both
played it,
did
there
that.
was no like timer or anything that demanded which I think should have been there, because there was a couple of times where I was waiting for my opponent to move, but I didn't realize it was my turn.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, that's most online competitive card games.
And
I think have some sort
I'm
of.
sure it
mechanic
will
like
in
that.
the final release.
Hearthstone definitely has one. Like,
One thing I talked to the developer about this. Spies super fucking OP. In Gwent from Witcher 3, they've definitely nerfed them. In Witcher 3, when you played a spy, it would go onto your opponent's field, so they would gain the points that they get from playing that as if they were their own creature, but you would get to draw 2 cards from your deck and put them in your hand. Now, when you play a spy, it still goes on the opponent's field, but you draw 2 cards, one face up, one face down, and you have to choose one of them.
Ooh.
So you don't know what the other. Right? So if you choose the face up, you don't know what the face down card was, and that just goes back, and then whatever. So it goes back into your deck. But like Christy was saying, they've added a whole fucking slew of passive abilities. So it just like so many different cards like interacting with each other. I have this one Roach card that would like Roach the horse, and in the card he was standing on top of a house. I guess like almost like a glitch in the game, whatever. But the way that card worked is at any point in time, if a hero is played from either person, Roach will go out onto my field. So if Roach is in my hand and someone plays a hero card, Roach goes into the field. If Roach has been discarded and now we're on a different turn and someone plays a hero card, he comes out into the field. Kind of stuff like that. Just like so many different interactions, so many cards that kind of balance off each other that make each other stronger. That my opponent played this one card against me that was like that spawned a whale, and that whale would add -2 to every unit on that row. But every time that person's turn started, the whale would switch randomly to a different row. And so it's kind of like, oh, it depends on where it lands, because this row has a lot of enemies or has a lot of units that's taking, now it's like -12 to my entire team. But if it lands on this row, it's -0 because I have nobody on that row, kind of type deal. But, decoys, because decoys are in the game, I was able to take that whale off my field and play it on the opponent's field. So I used it against them. So I don't know. It's definitely a lot of strategy. And I'm excited to play it more. The beta, the closed beta, I guess, goes live later this year. I think like fall.
That's cool.
So I'm excited to check it out. The one biggest negative thing I had towards the game was in Witcher 3 Gwent. It showed the person's hand as a number, but now you physically see it. So you have to like I'm always curious, like how many cards do they have left? Because the strategy of, do I pass this round, even though I might lose, but because I want to save cards for the next round? It's really simple to throw up a fucking number on there.
They also kind of a big thing too with the hand. Like if an opponent pulls a card from the field and it goes back into their hand, it stays face up. So
Correct.
You can see it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So you always remember what they have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's Gwent. It was cool. Like, it was fun.
Cool.
Once again, free to play though.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well,
With optional purchases for in-game content. I'm sure,
of
like
course.
some cards and whatever. Yeah.
For sure. I have a couple quick games from the Sony booth I could talk about real quick.
Okay.
One is called Bound. I think this was announced a while back, and we may have seen screenshots of it. Hell, it may have even been at PAX or something. I can't remember, but I played it today. Really, really cool game. It's more of like it seems, at first I thought it was just kind of like one of those like artsy audio visual kind of experiences.
Yeah.
But then it started to become kind of a platformer, and I think the demo kind of ends with a boss fight, or at least it hints at a boss fight, and the demo ends before you actually fight it. But it's this game where it's like, I don't know how to describe the world. You're in this like geometric world that's constantly like flexing and moving, and all these, and you're on these platforms that are constantly like rippling like waves, and you're walking on them. But you play like this like weird character who's like she's basically a ballet dancer. In fact, when you jump, she does like the
pirouette.
Where the splits and everything, and she's jumping. And R2 actually is to dance, and she'll start to do like ballet and like this
That might be a
around her.
plie, actually.
I don't know much about ballet. I just know your character is a really like elegant like dancer, and that's the way you kind of traverse through the world. And it got to at first it was just kind of like you dance your way through it. It looks really cool, and it's just kind of like this audio visual experience. But then you get to a point where you're going up these giant steps, and there's pieces of the steps missing, and then you have to like jump onto the wall. And then she does this like when she hits the wall, she does this like really like dramatic like dance move. Where she like waves her hands and whatnot, and then flings herself off the wall, and you're basically like wall jumping. But it's everything that she does is kind of like a dance, which is really cool. But as you wall jump, you're hitting these red switches, which then bring the pieces of the steps down to let you continue. And the soundtrack kind of plays like a key part of it. Like it all kind of sounds like it's like the environment is moving and fluctuating with the sound and the music. And
So it sounds like everything is indeed not bound.
yeah, yeah.
Just based on how you're
It's kind of
describing
the opposite.
this.
I don't know. It was a really cool experience. It's kind of like unlike anything I've ever really seen or played before. It gave me kind of Journey vibes, but with the whole dancing kind of thing, because it was very clear like the character you were playing as is a ballet ballet dancer. But like the story setup at the very beginning is just like this, because there's these. You can tell it's like the shape of a ballet dancer, but her face is just completely blank. Like there's no detail on her face, and she has this weird thing, and her hair is all kind of flowy, and she has this like elaborate dress on. But she's talking like she's walking up, and her mother's there, and she's like the queen of the land, and she's like, daughter, there's a monster destroying the land. Go stop it.
Jesus.
That's the setup.
Wow.
And she's like, okay, and then she just turns around and you go, and the music starts playing, and it's drop dead gorgeous. I literally I walked up, I was like, that looks really cool. And I just walked up, there was like one person in front of me, and I played it. It only took like 5 or 6 minutes to get to the entire demo, but
Oh, wow.
really cool concept. So I would recommend, if you're interested in that kind of experience, that kind of game, look it up. They hinted at a boss fight, and it was starting to show elements of platforming, so I think it's going to be a little bit deeper than just being some artsy experience.
And so this is published by Sony?
Yes.
Who's developing it?
Oh, you would ask me that. I mean, it's an indie. It's
Okay, that's fine. That's
it's
fine.
definitely indie. But the other game I played in the Sony booth today was Gravity Rush 2.
Ah, nice. How was that?
Dude, that game... Okay, so Gravity Rush 2 is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's fun as hell to control. Like, it still works a lot like it did on the Vita, where you tap the right shoulder button and the gravity just kind of gives way, and you can kind of move you can look around, and then whichever direction you're looking, and you tap R1 again, the gravity shifts in that direction. So you suddenly start falling in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it on the fly. So like there's a lot of flying around, and then like if you miss your target, or if you like are trying to position yourself in relation to an enemy in a particular way, you just need to jump up, hit that button, and kind of reposition it, and then hit it again, and you'll fly towards the enemy in that direction, which it still feels really awesome. They've thrown in things like I don't know what they call them. There's one like you can change your outfit, and it changes your abilities, like your combat abilities.
Okay, so this is like Final Fantasy X too?
A little bit. Like it was like you changed like the Jupiter outfit or something like that, and like her suit turns kind of yellow, and she walks slower.
Sailor Moon.
But you can basically jump into the air, and you hold square, and she starts charging this ability, and you can like pinpoint an enemy and lock onto it, and then she'll just do this like she'll just catapult towards the ground and just hit the ground and like cause a huge explosion. And there was another one where she turns blue, and she kind of like she moves like I don't know. It's all I don't know. I can't even just like it was so crazy. I can't even really describe what each suit does. And in fact, I was having a hard time pinpointing what the actual mechanics were in the combat.
Yeah.
It wasn't super clear on it, and I was I only had a short time with the game. There were people waiting to play it, so I was like, I don't know. I ended up fighting this boss, and I couldn't figure out the lock-on mechanic. So I eventually stopped before actually finishing that boss. Like the guy in front of me walked away and he was like, "That's cool, man." Like he was talking to his friend. He's like, "That's cool, but like, what the fuck was happening?" Like it's crazy. You're like flying all over the place. You're changing gravity. You're changing suits. Some enemies have guns now, and like you're trying to dodge the gunfire and attack them while other dudes are shooting rockets at you. And there's robots and there's those little like if you've played the original, they had those like shadow creatures.
Yeah.
It's a really hectic game. But I have a feeling, if you take the time to actually like really learn the mechanics, it's going to be great. and they introduce a new character. Well, they had already introduced this character, but you actually get to play side by side with this other girl, and I guess they're friends. I don't really know what the story is here, but
Okay.
Really cool character design, really cool world design. The core gravity shifting mechanic is still fucking awesome, and it's just drop dead gorgeous. Like easily, like it's really surprising this hasn't been like a focal point for Sony because it's a really original IP, like really creative, and the mechanics in the game are super solid. They're just a little complex. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you'll have an opportunity because like I literally just walked up. There's one person. There's like 3 or 4 kiosks. I just walked up. I waited for one person to finish the demo or get frustrated and walk away, and I played it. But it's fucking cool. So I highly recommend it.
Nice.
What else we got? Anyone? Crispy, did you play some VR today?
I played one VR game, but it was really VR. I played the Farpoint VR beta with the new PlayStation aim controller, or the PlayStation Wii Zapper.
Is it weird that they're suddenly just kind of like bringing back the Move controller?
Yeah, really low key.
Like they didn't even announce it.
Well, this is I mean, it's not like a fucking handle for the Move controller. It is like the thing is one complete separate.
To me, it just reminds me.
It just has that.
It just reminds me from the Nintendo Wii, the Link's archery game.
Yeah.
They came with that little plastic like crossbow thing that you stuck your Wii. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, the Zapper. The Wii Zapper.
The Wii Zapper.
Yeah.
It's a thing you're going to use for all of like one game.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I understand. Since it's a gun, you could probably use it in many
really,
VR games.
Well, the one advantage that this thing has over the Wii Zapper is that it has 2 sticks on it, which is kind of nice. But the demo for Farpoint, I cannot remember the name of this fucking game.
It's all good.
Farpoint. You're on an alien planet, or you're on Mars or some shit. I don't remember. If you saw the press conference, it was the one space Mars looking game with people in spacesuits and spider monsters. The demo consisted of like 4 or 5 sections, and it was really cool. But it's super confined, and it's super curated and very, very linear. And you're kind of just walking forward and shooting the whole time.
Yeah.
But experiencing that on VR was kind of neat. Like, it actually kind of worked. Your character, when you hit forward on the stick, your character walks forward and he moves in whatever direction you're pointing your gun.
Okay.
Little things like, instead of having to hit a button to bring up iron sights, like your sights are just on your gun and you can hold it up. It's got a little reticle and you can use that for fine aiming. And it actually, after a couple seconds, like becomes super intuitive. I mean, this demo doesn't just have like enemies popping up in a shooting gallery for you to shoot. I mean, they are like launching projectiles at you. They're jumping through the air at you from multiple directions.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time where I heard a spider behind me. I turned around while it was flying in the air, and I like just popped it like right before it hit me, and it worked. It was really cool. They even later in the demo give you grenades and give you rockets because they give you an assault rifle and a shotgun, and the assault rifle can shoot a rocket that when you fire it, you just aim your controller and the rocket guides with where you're aiming, and then the shotgun just shoots up like regular arc grenade.
Cool.
It's really cool. I mean, I'm excited by VR. I think it's a really neat idea, and there is something to be said about like walking around and looking at an environment. I actually, when I started the demo, it was about 15 minutes long. I set up my camera right on the station to record me looking like an idiot, like looking around with the gun.
Oh, that footage
so
will make it out
you'll
there.
see it. The demo is you're kind of just like fighting little spider monsters, and they get bigger and bigger, and then at the very end you come to a cave and you hear rumbling, and this giant one walks out of the cave, and there's this moment, and you'll see it in the video too, where like I'm just kind of like walking like this, and then I just kind of like look up and I'm like, oh, like that was kind of a neat moment. This is definitely, I feel like if the game is anything like this demo, this is going to be one of those things where once the novelty of VR has worn off, whether or not it's an actual mainstream part of of gaming, we'll look back on this as that quaint little time when people were still trying to wrap their head around VR. Like, there's nothing super special going on here. It's really gimmicky, and I kind of borked it out a few times just by moving around, because it's tracking pretty much exclusively. I mean, it is doing some tracking on the head in that you looking around, moves the camera. Your character's moving more based on your controller, though. And they have it too where you have your whole body modeled so you can look down. I mean, I kind of like jerked the gun sideways for a second, and like his arm kind of like broke, and he was like holding it sideways for a minute.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. Like when you're looking in one direction, you kind of get oriented in a different way, and then you end up like walking through the level like in half of a
Your
little
character has bonitis.
yeah, it's like my only regret. Yeah. You're kind of like walking through the level in like half of a strafe.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of weird. But little things like when they give you the shotgun, you actually just you take the controller, and the shotgun's sitting on like a box in the world, and you just take your controller and you set, like, he takes the gun and sets it down, and then it turns into the shotgun, and you pull it up and you have a shotgun. Which was kind of cool. It's really
on that
weird.
note with the messed up character walking around and stuff. I think it's something that a lot of VR games are gonna have to implement, is a kind of almost like a reset camera button or something you can do to kind of just reset everything back to basics and kind of go from there.
If this had a button where it was like, I'll just look in the direction I want to be facing, reset, and it just repositions his body, that'll be perfect. That's something that they need to work out, because as long as you're moving forward, as long as you're like moving within the certain range of motion, everything's fine. But once you get into it and you're kind of like ducking around and like looking behind you to shoot and like making all these really erratic movements, sometimes you can kind of bork it out a little bit. I'm looking at it more as a VR tech demo than a game at this point. And in that regards, it was kind of cool. Whether or not this is going to be like an actual cool game to play when it comes out, I have absolutely no idea. Because I have absolutely no idea how representative this is to the final product. I saw that they were demoing it in the press area. Without VR, I think.
What? Without VR? Really?
Yeah, isn't there a non-VR component to this?
I'm just.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a
wrong.
completely. I'm not confident in that. I
I'm
thought I
just
saw it on a monitor. I mean, they had monitors at the VR stations too. I just didn't remember seeing headsets there.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't sure if this was strictly a VR only. I mean, I believe it, because if you sat down and played that demo without VR, it would be really, really uneventful. You'd just be like, what? The VR demo is definitely all about making you go, ooh, this is really cool. I'm in VR walking through caves, and I'm walking on this really narrow ledge on a cliff, and I don't want to fall. Oh no. But yeah, gameplay wise, you're not really doing more than walking and shooting a couple things.
Yeah.
Well, I can answer part of why you might have confused you. Is I also played a VR game, and when I was asking questions about how the system works, and apparently the current plan is that every additional component that comes to help power the Sony VR, the additional box, whatever it's called, has an additional HDMI out port. So that way, you're supposed to wire your PS4 through that, but you can also connect the second HDMI cable from that box to a TV. Yeah. So instead of just strictly broadcasting to your goggles, you also get an additional feed of what the goggles are seeing in much more high definition, put to a television. That's most likely done so that you can both get people who are in the room to see what you're seeing, so it's not as boring.
And for streamers.
And for streamers.
Yeah.
And the goggles were surprisingly comfortable. To avoid the issue, like for myself and Crispy, that we have glasses, they actually have a button that lets you slide them back and forth.
Yeah, so I can't do that anymore. Because like after I took this, I've decided I'm not going to wear glasses when I do VR anymore. I shouldn't have a problem because I'm nearsighted, so I can see things that are close to my face.
Right.
Because when I took those goggles off after this 15-minute demo, like my glasses weren't fogged, like they were like wet. They were dripping.
You just need to invent a VR headset with windshield wipers.
Yeah, I don't like, or like something to like let my eyes breathe. It's the same thing like when I was taking chem lab, like I had these goggles that like press against your face and seal you in, and I just can't fucking do it. I like there has to be some kind of airflow. Like I feel like I'm suffocating when I'm wearing it. But yeah, I mean, this is a VR demo that's cool because we've never played anything like it, and as soon as this becomes the mainstream, this is just gonna be trash.
Oh no! If you want to talk about trash VR though, the game I chose to play because it was the only appointment available was the Final Fantasy 15 VR experience.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I just wanted to see how the goggles felt. That was the only reason I went. And
You chose that as your first VR experience.
yeah, and I asked the guy to take a picture of me just so I can get a picture, and I have the grumpiest face on because I am not having fun. I sat there, the gun was auto fire, so I just held the trigger and I just slightly adjusted the move controller. And apparently to do the warp, all I had to do was look in the direction of where I wanted to warp. And then if I see a little blue circle, I can go there and I just hit the button. And I warped there.
It was the laziest cash in. It was the only thing I saw at the Sony press conference that made me go, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, everything else was so great, I didn't really give a shit. But I was like, wow, that looks unnecessary as hell. Jesus Christ.
And, like you were talking about having the auto correcting for the centering of the camera. I don't know what I did, but it was centered when I played, and apparently it started to think my head started to tilt slightly to the right, because when I got the wind quote, even though I'm looking straight and the world is straight, the wind quote was at a 45-degree angle. So I had to just tilt my head just to get like this.
Yeah.
And what made him make the only thing worth it is that right before he could take the headset off my head, I won and I got to look to the left and I saw Sid driving the car. And that was okay, but
Highlight of the demo.
yeah.
All right.
I think we got 2 more games we can talk about. Nolan played one, and you played one.
Yes, I know what game you're talking about. That's the game you also played.
It's also only the 2 games I played today. And
Nolan,
So-
what game did you play?
I played Agents of Mayhem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the new game from Volition.
How's that? That's upstairs, right?
Yes. It's in Deep Silver, has a media area upstairs, and Chris and I were able to go and play the game.
This is the next game from Saints Row developers.
Yes, and it actually takes place in the Saint Row universe.
Like, confirmed? Like,
Yes.
well,
the
they
same
said
universe?
this takes place in the Saints Row universe.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty confirmed to me.
Yeah, so I don't know to what extent that will be. I mean, some of the weapons in there were from Saints Row universe, like gun manufacturers, Ultor, yeah, and stuff like that. There's going to be references. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be that much. But yeah, so it's a game about super agents, and you work for Mayhem, which it's the multinational agency for hunting evil masterminds. And they are out to stop Legion, which is the League of Evil Gentlemen intent on obliterating nations.
I'm glad you wrote that down.
Yeah, I'm glad I did too, because I ain't gonna remember those
They love
acronyms.
their acronyms.
So it's really cool. It's a weird way of playing a game, because instead of going in and being like a super soldier with a bunch of different weapons, every character has a different weapon type. So there is a shotgun character. He has a shotgun. There is a character that has like an assault rifle. There's a character that has a bow. So instead of switching to those weapons, you switch to those characters. Then it literally kind of warps in and out the player. And they are all completely different. They play different. They have different melee styles. They have different special abilities. They have different like grenade type rechargeable weapons. And the craziest thing about this is every time you go on a mission, you take 3 characters.
You play as a squad.
A squad
Yeah.
of 3 people, and you want to make sure they're balanced. Taking 3 shotgun guys, probably not a good idea. I don't know if there's going to be 3 shotgun guys.
But
Probably
you're-
not.
But you're not controlling like, team mechanics or anything like that. You're literally controlling one person, and with a press of the D-pad, you switch to a new character.
But the other characters still move around with their,
No, it's just one character. at a
Always
time.
one character on screen. Like I said, they get warped in and out of the character position.
What they're trying to pitch the game is as you have your weapons, but you only get that set amount of weapon per character.
So
you're
these
constantly
characters,
switching characters like you're switching weapons.
so these characters are really just loadouts.
Kind
You're
of.
switching on the fly.
But they're loadouts with very, very different personalities.
Okay.
Because it's a volition game, so there's a lot of story elements to it. So you're interacting with people, and every character has a different line of dialogue. So if Nick, if you were a character in the game and you talk to the main character and you're like, "Hey, what's up?" they would say something, but each character would say something different.
Yeah.
So there's a line of dialogue for each character.
And they've always
So-
been pretty good at that stuff. Seems
but-
good here.
Well,
Think about this though. There are 12 characters in the game you can play as, okay? And they have set character dialogue for each and every exact scenario in which people would speak. That's a metric fuck ton of dialogue.
but not
How
only
is the dialogue?
not only do they have that though, but they have Dragon Age style interactions where the characters in your squad will talk to each other. So
But how do they talk to each other? There's only one person
well,
on screen.
they're like
On the radio or something?
Sure, it's not 100% confirmed how that exactly works. We don't know yet. This is a very early version of the game, but yes, the dialogue that was there was great. So the story we were playing was Mayhem was out to stop Legion because they had captured a really intelligent artificial intelligence named, what was her name?
Please tell me it's another acronym.
Yeah, I think it might have been Alicia,
I don't remember.
something like that. She was like an anime pop star. Like what's the anime?
Hatsune Miku.
Yeah, Hatsune Miku.
Yeah.
It was like that. So she was an artificial intelligence, not a real thing, but just AI, and she like was almost like Jim meets Sailor Moon. I don't know. They were showing these weird, like literally anime music videos, her dancing.
Actually, decently animated.
Yeah.
It looks like they put this out to a studio to make.
And a member of Legion named Steel Toe, I think, had captured her, and he had tricked the AI into falling in love with him, and they were going to get married. And your goal was to stop the wedding.
Because if they got married, she would join Legion.
Yeah, and so this really advanced AI would now be on the side of Legion. So you go in, and you're okay. This whole game takes place in like a futuristic Seoul, Korea. So you go in, you kind of. I was fighting a bunch of dudes, and I got some information that led me to a new area. I interacted with some stuff in the world, and then I was able to get some more information out of it. I don't know. So I don't know. We don't know how the world's going to be structured yet. We don't know if it's going to be like a Saints Row game where it's like a big open world. That's yet to be seen.
Yeah.
Once again, this game's very early. But like, so yeah. Anyway, I took out these people, then I went to this place, and then I got this crane, and this crane took me to the top of a building where the wedding was being held, and it was all these like virtual reality people attending the wedding, and my objective was press X to object. To like, I object to this
I
wedding.
object.
Yeah. And so she like started killing them.
Was there a button to forever hold your peace?
No, there was not.
No.
But yeah, so just really over the top shit. Like I said, the comments the characters make are really weird. And once, like Chris was saying, there's a line of dialogue from each character for every response.
That's crazy.
So yeah, just the amount of dialogue recorded for this game is fucking insane.
How are the character designs?
Pretty cool. We only got to see 4 out of the 12. They're all personalities. So there was Hollywood. They all have code names. So Hollywood. So like during like the trailer, if you've seen the trailer for this game, like that was one of the best parts about the trailer is they were all attacking Legion. These 3
What's the
characters,
title of the game again?
Agents of Mayhem, and they were all attacking these guys. And Hollywood's like on the phone with his agent. And he's like, yeah, you can give me the part, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hold on. And he like snaps the guy's neck. And then he goes back on the phone. He's like, oh, wait, I got to take this call. And he calls in his stunt double. And some random little guy runs up and he hands him like a mine. And the guy throws the mine, but then it blows up and the stunt double gets obliterated.
Nice.
But then there's the Fortune, who...
It's practically my favorite character.
Dude, she's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
So...
She's the one with the red bandana?
Yes.
So she wields dual pistols. And she's the only character that has an air dash. Which I really wish I would have had when I played, because when I went in, I didn't have her on my squad, so I could never air dash.
Yeah, because every character in the game has a double jump,
Yes.
and you can sometimes bounce off walls.
They each have such slight little different so Fortune can air dash, Hollywood can wall jump. What was the Haddock? What was the guy with he has like a harpoon
launcher.
he can kind of climb, clamber up walls a little bit. They're all just like slight little differences. It's not like they're just reskins. They're very, very different characters.
But it's also their weaponry that they use is actually pretty
all
cool.
completely different.
Haddock, for example, his harpoon launcher will teleport an enemy towards you, so you can instantly blast them in the face with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Kind of like a reverse of a Vanguard in Mass Effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of them have completely different melees. Like the harpoon guy, his melee is he swings his harpoon in like a 360, so it hits every enemy in the area.
Yeah.
The fucking Hollywood, I love his goddamn melee because he has an assault rifle, and when he goes to melee something, he throws his gun up in the air and punches them, and then catches the gun on the way
awesome.
down. It's like so well done. Like the characters all have such a great personality, and I'm really excited to see how I can mix and match those in the game in the future. And they all have different levels. They all have different abilities that you can level up as the game goes on. They all have specials. All their specials are completely different. Like what was the other one? Not Fortune, the one I played with. I can't remember her name. It was a weird something like that. She was an archer, and so her bow you can just fire it rapid fire, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. So you can charge it up, and it does
sniper class.
yeah, it does massive damage. But her like special is her bow turns into poison arrows, and so it'll hit an enemy and poison them, but it'll also spread to every enemy that they're close to, so you can poison lots of enemies. The guy, the harpoon guy, what was his special ultimate? I think he like threw his harpoon and it explodes or something like that.
Hollywood has a grenade launcher.
Well, no, that's not his special, but yeah, his special was he goes fucking Rambo and just like starts shooting massive amounts of bullets.
Fortune's is pretty cool because she fires this kind of stun grenade, and it stuns a bunch of enemies in the area, and then she also gets like double speed to run around and just
shoot them with
everybody.
her pistols.
That's awesome.
But that's her grenade, not her
That's her grenade,
special.
sorry. That's her grenade.
Her special, she throws out like a drone, and the drone starts like electrocuting all the enemies in the air. Dude, like every character's completely fucking different.
How hard would this be for me to walk up and make an appointment?
You can try? I mean, so the thing is, we went in and they were like, we can squeeze you in, and literally me and Chris had to share like a booth.
They're only allowing one system play per hour.
So I mean, it's worth going by and asking if they have a slot open.
Maybe I'll drop by
But it
tomorrow.
was definitely a lot of fun. The other thing they added, or they have in the game, they give us a bunch of uses of it just for the demo sake. Was essentially a Super Mario star, like a superstar. Like you start glowing rainbows and you run around and every time you hit someone they die and go ragdoll flying. Like this is going to be in the game. It's going to be a very rare resource, but it's going to be in the game.
Sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I want to check it out.
The art design's kind of cool. It's a little bit of Mass Effect with some Crackdown and just a tad of Halo in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Saints Row in there.
A little bit. There's interesting, like I said, there's interesting cutscenes. Like I came out of an area and like somebody started talking me through a billboard. There's these kind of like anime cutscenes at times. There's lots of differential art styles that still blend well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what comes from this game.
Sounds good.
Agents of Mayhem.
All right.
I'd like to mention one game really briefly. It's really short. I got to try Bloodstained.
Oh yes.
I sat down. I played Bloodstained. If you have played Symphony of the Night, you will just jump right in and you will be able to do everything you used to do. The controls are exactly Symphony of the Night.
That's on my list to try tomorrow.
Yeah, but the three things I did notice that mechanically are interesting is that the soul system is back from Aria Sorrow.
Oh, okay.
So I was there are some that you will get in the demo. For example, I got the ability to shoot flames, and I got the ability to make a whip. But the whip is basically like a Dullahan's, like the mace. I was able to steal that, and it's still called a Dullahan, but they call him Dullahammer.
Okay.
Because Dullahan's still locked with. But anyway, it's a little unusual because unlike Arya and Dawn, you have 3 slots. 2 of them seem very similar to me. You had the effect, you had familiar, which is always going to be available now.
Yeah.
You have trigger, which is just a standard, item equipped, just one shot go. Enchant and enhance. I don't know why those are both there. They seem like they're the same thing to me. But the one that was unusual to me, and this is a mechanic that's actually taken from Shadow Complex, is directional.
Interesting.
And that one is you aim with the right stick,
Yeah.
and you pull the trigger and you fire in that direction.
Yeah.
That is straight Shadow Complex.
Yeah.
And the way it's used in the demos, it wasn't a very efficient attack, but there in this case you're on a pirate ship, a ghost ship, and there are cannons in the background, and you actually advance because the directional you get is a flame burst.
Yeah.
So you have to find the cannons and then light them so it opens more pathways for you to go.
If I remember correctly, when they started this Kickstarter, didn't they do like a special Metroidvania style broadcast with Koji Igarashi?
Yes.
Where they were having a whole bunch of people.
They were
Didn't
they
he-
were having all the developers that their games were created because they loved the games he made.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he got to play their game. So
and
he
he
played like
Didn't he play Shadow Complex
did,
and say
yeah.
he fucking loved it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He had never played it before, but he said he loved the way they did 3D. How the environment is
like
still
the 2.5D kind of type thing.
yeah,
He was also really impressed with Axiom Verge. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
and that's one of the things like he saw is that something in the background can interact with the foreground, and that does happen in the demo.
Yeah.
And besides that, like it, without a doubt, is a
Souls
Metroidvania.
game.
It is
Sorry,
the Castlevania
a
side of a
Metroidvania,
Metroidvania.
That's
What-
really exciting.
What was really
I'm gonna
cool-
play it tomorrow. That's on my list.
Well, you may not need to actually, because they announced last week if you are a $60 plus backer on the project,
Yeah.
you are going to get a copy of the E3 demo to play.
Yeah.
Should be releasing either this week or early next week. So
I'm not gonna risk just in case. I can't remember if I filled that survey out. I think I did.
Pretty sure you
The
did.
line's not
Pretty
too
sure.
bad. The problem
I mean-
is you might get behind someone who gets lost.
All right. Well, that
Yeah.
that leads me to one other thing. This is a game I just want to mention briefly. I played We Happy Few today.
How was that, Nick?
you weren't happy, were you?
Okay. I'm very, 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 very excited for this game.
Look, before you go on, let me give you my impression of your reaction versus what I saw of the game.
Okay.
And I think you were going in maybe expecting something similar to BioShock, and you were met with something similar to Sir, You Are Being Hunted. And I could see
Yes.
where that would cause some confusion.
And also I found it. Okay, so I discovered today. So what we saw at the press conference was a very scripted, linear portion that was very reminiscent of BioShock, which that's what I was super excited for. Then I found out today it's actually, and this has probably been, I wasn't aware. This is actually a semi-open world game that is procedurally generated. Every time you load that game and you play it, when you go outside into the world, it's different. And because of that, nothing ever. I didn't feel like everything fit together seamlessly.
Okay.
You could see the cracks in the illusion, I guess. There were characters that weren't loading in properly necessarily. So like there was a bench and there was someone like sitting that loaded in like 2 feet to the left of the bench, and he looked like he was sitting on the bench, but it was to the right of him, and he was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" So there were some technical issues. Also, there was nobody there to really explain, or there was nothing really there in the game even to explain what I was doing or what the mechanics meant. I walk into this world. I chose to not take the joy pill.
Yep.
So I was under the impression that as soon as I was exposed as this is what I love. When they realize you haven't taken your joy pill, which is supposed to keep you happy and oblivious,
Yeah.
they refer to you as a downer,
Nice.
like a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. But once you're like outed as a downer, I was under the impression everyone was going to be out to kill me.
Yeah.
I walk out into this open world. There are people everywhere with the creepy smiles on their faces, walking around, and nobody attacked me. I was like, "What's going on?" Like,
Yeah. They didn't notice you hadn't taken.
But
your
I would
joy.
walk up behind people, and I had the option to do a takedown, and I was like, "Why would I even take this person down? They're not attacking me. What's going on?" They were muttering to themselves. They weren't really making any sense. So I didn't really know what to do. I found one small group of people, which I think they were guarding the thing that I needed, and they attacked me. And I didn't have much of a tutorial for the combat, and the combat was literally just me punching, and it was really static and like not, it didn't feel very good, which has me really concerned. It just like everything leading up to the moment where the stage demo ended, I was totally on board for.
Yeah.
Everything after that,
Not so much.
I'm not really sold on it yet. I think it needs some more time in the oven. But I'm not writing it off. I think it totally has a lot of potential. Maybe I was just. Also, I stood in line there was 2 people in front of me. I was like, oh, this won't take very long. I waited in line for an hour for 2 people to go through it. And I think it's because the 2 people in front of me also were very confused.
I think so. I was waiting in line to play that. but it took so long. I had to leave because I had to go to an appointment.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was waiting there, like some of the people, the representatives from We Happy Few walked up and they're like, you've been playing for a while, how
Yeah.
about you stop? Because I guess the people had gotten stuck and didn't know what was going on, so they
That
just kind of
happened a lot.
shoot them off.
That happened a lot. I talked to one of the devs there, and before I got to that part where it was open, where I went out of the open world, and I was like, I saw your game. I'm very excited for it. He actually walked up to me. He was like, "You work for Arcane?" I was like, "What? What do you mean?" He's like, "You're wearing a Prey 2 shirt," which I'm wearing like the old Prey 2 shirt.
Yeah.
I was like,
Why would they be wearing?
I was like, oh, well, I don't know. Oh no, well, because they're making Prey. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, and they're suppressing all knowledge and memory of Prey too.
He just thought it was odd that I had the classic Prey 2 shirt. I don't fucking know.
What a dumb.
But I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed because I was really hoping to be super jazzed by that.
Of course.
A little bit on a more surprising note, I played Dead Rising 4.
Yep.
And that game is actually kind of a joy to play.
Nice.
I think the demo, they kind of gave you a bunch of stuff right up front to kind of mess around with, and they gave you first of all, there should be way more demos at E3 this year that are timed, like 10 minutes, next person.
Yeah.
That should be the standard. I don't care if I play a game for 10 minutes. That's fine. That's all I should need to play really any game and walk away with a good enough impression of it. I could play so many games in a day if they were all 10-minute demos. But I played Dead Rising 4 for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Had a blast. It's one of the big things they've changed is you don't have to go into any menus or anything to equip weapons. You can just change them on you don't even have to toggle through your weapons. You can toggle with the D-pad, but you press one button to do your melee weapon, one button to throw a grenade, one button to do your ranged, and you can have one in each one of those slots equipped at all times. So you can do them. You can change them and chain them together in any way you want at any time. And they just kind of let you loose into the streets, and there's of course thousands of zombies on the screen.
Yep.
And one of the weapons they give you right up front is it's almost like a crossbow that fires bottle rockets, but when they hit the ground, they fucking huge explosions. But they're all like fireworks with giant colors, which was really really cool. And they give you an axe and a bat, and I just went to town with a fucking axe. It was just a hell of a lot of fun. And once you build up your kill meter, you'll unlock it's a special ability you can use. And in the case, I think it was the axe where you push both buttons at once, and he holds the axe in the air, and lightning strikes it, and
nice.
It just creates this giant dome of lightning for 10 feet around you and just kills everything. Which I was that doesn't make any sense at all, but it's awesome. All the shit feels really, really good. I don't give really two shits about Dead Rising for the most part, to be totally honest, but something about what they changed fundamentally with the way your weapon switching works, and I don't know, maybe it's also the Christmas tone. I think it's just a really cool fit.
You don't see a whole lot of Christmas games.
It bring that up every time.
It's cool. It's really
Nick just loves Christmas.
I love Christmas.
Jaeger brings up an interesting point, if true. The game is no longer on a timer.
Well, he asked the developer.
It seems to be on a timer. I think again. I was talking with one of the designers who's from Capcom.
They literally give you 10 minutes. Like it says, it starts from 10 minutes.
No, not the demo.
But the game itself, you can't
No, there are events that happen, and they have timers associated with them.
Right.
And I think it takes place over a timeline. So.
And he asked about Zombrex, and the guy was like, "I can't tell you."
Because this game takes place 16 years after the original, and it's set in Willamette, the original Dead Risings. But you actually are in the town this time.
Okay.
But they're not talking about a whole lot. They're not talking about the specifics of what's going on. All they're really saying is that Frank West is there and he's investigating this new outbreak because he's now once again a photojournalist.
Yeah.
And photography is back in the game.
Oh,
but just beyond that, because the camera is now utilized to discover clues that are going around the world. But they've added something you missed, which is a spectrum analyzer. And it's basically kind of the cowl detective mode from the Arkham games.
I had missed it because I just spent way too much time killing zombies weapons.
Yeah.
You're basically going to these scenes and you're finding just what happened in the background, and that's filling in clues as to the backstory and probably progressing the game as it goes.
Yeah. And you know, that stuff's pretty cool. Like, they've gone balls to the wall crazy again. Like, last thing I did in the game, like literally I had 10 seconds left and I ran out because I saw the guy before me. He was playing with some like futuristic spacesuit looking thing. I was
Exosuit.
like, an exosuit. I was like, where is that? He's like, it's that glowy thing on there. I was like, oh shit, I have 15 seconds left. Ran over there, equipped it, and it was like 3, 2. I just turned to a zombie and hit the button. I grabbed him, lifted him over my head, and just stretched him in half. And
Nice.
then the demo ended. And I was like, all right, that was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, it seems like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it felt really good. Like, I feel like the old Dead Risings were really clunky, and this didn't feel clunky to me.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to play this. I think I will actually give this one a shot.
Does it come out at Christmas?
It's
bet.
coming out this holiday.
Yep.
Okay.
Holiday,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, that would make sense.
Another thing that people were asking him, and I was in the area, supposedly the game may not be for the first time an Xbox exclusive. It's gonna come out in Windows 10 and Xbox later this year, but they're hinting kind of that it's going to get a full multi-platform release.
Well, it's not the first time. Dead Rising 2 is multi-platform.
Yeah.
It was.
But like,
Yes.
but the card, like they had a little card on the kiosk that said Xbox One and PC. It didn't say anything about
Well, I mean, for the time being, yeah.
the time. We'll see.
2 was on PS3 and Xbox.
But I mean, after playing this, I'm kind of inspired. I didn't ever play Dead Rising 2 off the record, which was kind of like an offshoot remake of Dead Rising 2. And I think I might go play that pretty soon. Actually.
Well, I won't do that, but I'll wait. I'll probably play 4 just because it's kind of fun. It seemed like some good old fashioned zombie killing. There's also not damage numbers, but like experience numbers.
That's
Right.
always
the
been.
PP, it's always
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
PP. That PP feels
Power
good.
points.
Power points, yeah.
What you missed with the exosuit, which I really like. So the exosuit allows you to lift like heavy objects and use them as weapons. Like you can rip like a
Parking meters.
parking meter out of the ground. There's this huge piece of concrete stuck to it. And you just smash through zombies with it. But just with the standard melee attacks with it, just with your fists, you can just fuck everything up.
Oh no,
You can-
I think I covered that when I told you I ripped the zombie in half with my hands.
You can punch cars into zombies and they just go flying.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm on board. Count me in for Dead Rising 4. Which, you know what? A lot of stuff is getting kind of pushed out of the end of 2016 into 2017, so I might need something to fill that space. Dead Rising might fit the bill. But anyways, unless anybody has something else they want to add, it's getting kind of late.
Please, God, no.
Can we give a little preview of what we're doing tomorrow?
No.
I don't even know what
We
we're
don't
doing
know.
tomorrow.
None of us know.
You don't
I know. Well, I know I'm going. I have an appointment to see Mafia 3 in the morning.
I'll tell you about it tomorrow.
We'll tell you about it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll also wait and cover Resident Evil 7 tomorrow, because we did start a little bit later because I was playing that on the feed. So I'll cover that tomorrow, and we're gonna see a bunch more stuff tomorrow. We'll start the podcast probably around 8 tomorrow, maybe a little bit after.
Probably not.
A little after.
We'll go into the mix.
Oh,
Yep.
maybe it'll be around 9 or 10 tomorrow. I don't know. Point is, we'll do another podcast tomorrow.
There's an indie event
Yes.
post PAX floor closing that we're going to be going to check out some indie games. So
Yes.
yeah, we definitely want to check those out because often indie games are some of our favorite games. So yes, the podcast will be a little bit later tomorrow.
Yes.
Hopefully, it may be similar to the same time it was today.
But like we always do, like I've been doing already, I'll have the podcast up the following morning before we head to the show floor. So if you don't catch the late night recording, it'll always be up the next morning for your ear holes. I'll have it available on the site at 4playernetwork.com. Also, quick reminder, if you're in the LA area and you want to come hang out, we're going to meet for dinner on Thursday night at Button Mash LA, which is a little arcade/restaurant here in LA. There's details on the site. So if you're interested and you live in the area, go check it out. We'd love to hang out with you guys for a little while. And I think that's all we have for tonight. We're going to go to bed because we got to get back up early tomorrow because the show floor opens 2 hours earlier than it did today.
Yep.
So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining us for our E3 coverage, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.